Good morning and welcome to our public hearing. We will not be acknowledging senators yet. They are late. Okay. So we will ask our committee secretary, Ms. Eloisa Texon, to acknowledge a resource person and other invited guests.
Good morning, Madam Chair. To acknowledge our resource persons for the public hearing of the Senate Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change, we have the following. From the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, we have Assistant Secretary Marshall C. Amaro Jr. From the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic
Sabi mo lang yung
Resources,
position nila dun sa
yes, ma'am.
department.
Mr. Isidro Velayo Jr., Assistant
No,
Director.
Amaro, what is his position?
ASEC Marshall C. Amaro Jr., Concurrent OIC Director of the Biodiversity Management Bureau. From the Department of Agriculture, we have Mr. Isidro Velayo Jr., Assistant Director for Technical Services, Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. From the Department of Science and Technology, we have Dr. Joseph Q. Basconillo. From the Department of Tourism, we have
Ano
Assistant
position niya
Secretary.
Can you mention their position?
Weather Specialist, Climatology and Agro-Meteorology Division. From the Department of Tourism, we have Assistant Secretary Warner M. Andrada. From Office of
Or what?
Assistant Secretary
for what?
of Tourism Development Planning. From the Climate Change Commission, we have Mr. Romel Antonio Cuenca, Deputy Executive Director. From the National Economic Development Authority, we have Ms. Nieva Natural, Director 4 of the Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Environment Division. From the Philippine Ports Authority, we have Attorney Yasmin de los Santos, Manager of the Port Operations and Services Department. From the Philippine National Police, we have Police Colonel Haji Balyangan, Chief of the Operations Management Division. Virtually present from the Mindanao State University, we have Professor Renoir Abrea, Vice Chancellor for Research and Extension. From the University of the Philippines, we have Dr. Nixon Hevanya, Director for Forestry Development Center, College of Forestry and Natural Resources. We have Dr. Victor S. Tixon, Professor of the Animal Biology Division. From the Marine Science Institute, we have Dr. Sharina Lynn Amedo Repolyo, Deputy Director for Research and Development. From Oceano, we have Attorney Rose Liza Esma Osorio, Senior Director for Campaigns, Legal and Policy. From the Partnerships in Environmental Management for the Seas of East Asia, or PEMSI, we have Ms. Nancy Burmas, Regional Project Manager. From the RARE organization, we have Ms. Candice Mongaya, Senior Manager for Policy and Governance. From the Society for the Conservation of Philippine Wetlands Incorporated, we have Mr. Celestino B. Ulep, the President po. From the Wetlands International, we have Ms. Ana Del Cabanban, Country Representative and Program Manager. That's all, Madam Chair.
In today's hearing, we will begin our discussion of the bill seeking the adoption of the integrated coastal management as a national strategy. Okay. We wish to acknowledge the presence of our minority floor leader, Senator Coco Pimentel. Okay. In today's hearing, we will begin our discussion of the bills seeking the adoption of integrated coastal management as a national strategy to ensure the sustainable development of our coastal and marine environments and the resources found therein. These bills include Senate Bills number 126, 1342, and 2397, authored by yours truly, Senate President Pro Tempore Lauren Legarda and Senator Jinggoy Estrada, respectively. And also House Bill number 7767, which is approved by the House of Representatives, that was transmitted to the Senate. Integral to coastal management is the maintenance of coastal greenbelts or those coastal plantation or vegetation which includes seagrass, mangroves, and or beach forests. Hence, we also have included in our agenda today the bills aiming to establish a national coastal greenbelt plan. This includes Senate Bill number 113, 591, 1117, and 1237, authored by Senators Binay, Hontiveros, Legarda, and myself, respectively. The Philippines, as an archipelago with 7,641 islands, has a vast coastline of over 36,000 kilometers, with the majority of our provinces, which is 66 out of 81, located along the coast, and about 60% of our population living in these areas. The importance of integrated coastal management for our country is clear. Our geography not only shapes our way of life but also highlights the critical role of integrated coastal management in managing and protecting our coastal resources effectively. The necessity of adopting an integrated coastal management as a national strategy is highlighted by several factors, namely, number one, biodiversity conservation to protect our marine ecosystem from threats like overfishing, pollution, habitat destruction, including reclamation activities. Number two, sustainable livelihood to ensure that the marine and coastal resources essential to the livelihood of our communities are used sustainably and will not be depleted. Number three is food security to maintain fish stocks and ecosystem health to secure our nation's food supply. Number four is climate change resilience to enhance the resilience of our coastal communities to the impact of climate change, such as sea level rise and extreme weather events. Number five is economic development through tourism to preserve our natural heritage while developing our coastal and marine areas for tourism. As we engage in today's discussion, I urge my fellow senators and all stakeholders to consider this vital point. The integrated coastal management legislation we are considering is not just about protecting our environment. The bill intends to secure the future of our nation, ensure sustainable development, and preserve our natural heritage for generations to come. With that, we look forward to a productive discussion on our agenda today with our resource persons. Would you like to say something? Okay, thank you for providing the forum. We wish to thank Senator Pimentel for providing the forum. He has another obligation. So we will proceed with the discussion. The order of resource person who will speak will be provided separately. The first speaker would be the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, represented by Assistant Secretary Marshall C. Amaro Jr., concurrent OIC Director of the Biodiversity Management Bureau.
Thank
We
you.
recognize ASEC Amaro.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Chair. Fellow workers in the government, a pleasant day to all. First and foremost, I would like to extend my warmest greetings and well wishes on the occasion of the World Wildlife Day and Women's Month.
Okay.
I am Assistant Secretary Marshall C. Amaro Jr., handling international affairs and concurrently the officer in charge of the Biodiversity Management Bureau. I am here today on behalf of our esteemed Secretary, Maria Antonia Yulu Loizaga, who is presiding over a workshop on National Blue Carbon Action Partnership. We'd like to, on behalf of the department, to express our support for the Senate bills enumerated by the Honorable Chair on ICM and the Coastal Greenbelt Zone. And our Bureau particularly has worked diligently to advance these principles and approaches under the DNR's priority program, the Coastal and Marine Ecosystems Management Program, or CMEM. We are grateful for the opportunity to express the DNR's position in support of the bills, and we'd like to take this opportunity, of course, to thank the Honorable Chair of the Senate Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change, as well as the other members of the Senate who have come up with various versions of the approaches on ICM and Coastal Greenbelt, as well as our partners in the bureaucracy who have helped considerably in the conservation and protection of our coastal and marine resources. The importance of our coastal and marine ecosystems cannot be overemphasized, as these ecosystems are not only visually stunning, but they are also critical to the health of the planet's biodiversity and the overall well-being of our country. The vastness of these ecosystems is truly highlighted by their visual representation and indeed our responsibility to ensure that they remain healthy and functional for generations to come. The Philippines is located at the apex of the Coral Triangle and is the center of marine shorefish biodiversity. Our country is indeed blessed with a diverse range of corals, mangroves, and seagrasses, and it's inspiring to know that we are home to 5 out of 7 marine turtle species. However, it is also important to recognize that several species of marine mammals are currently threatened. Next slide, please. The global population is increasing, which is leading to an alarming rise in resource consumption in both upland and coastal regions. This uncontrolled exploitation of resources is causing extreme or severe impacts on the health of our ecosystems. The accompanying figure demonstrates the extreme vulnerability of these ecosystems to various human-induced stressors such as agricultural runoff caused by slash and burn agriculture, mining, quarrying, and pollution from both land and sea-based activities, including reclamation. It is important to note that the relationship between upland and coastal areas is interconnected, and actions taken in one area inevitably affect the other. For example, land-based activities such as deforestation, mining, and agriculture can lead to soil erosion, which in turn can cause excessive sedimentation and nutrient loading in coastal waters. These changes can negatively impact the growth and survival of marine organisms such as seagrasses, which are important habitats for various types of marine life. Similarly, runoff from urban areas, industrial activities, and agricultural fields can contain pollutants that can harm marine life, reducing their growth and even killing them. The increased use of fertilizers and pesticides in agriculture, particularly in the uplands, can also lead to the eutrophication of coastal waters, causing harmful algal blooms.
Question
Yes,
on that.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of fertilizer? Yung bang organic can cause that or yung
Referring to the commercially available
so
fertilizers.
it's what do you call chemical
Because of the
fertilizer?
yes, ma'am. Because of the
Not
chemical
organic.
elements. Organic may be less harmful, but we'll have to see how they have been produced.
No, it's organic
Yes, ma'am.
fertilizer is taken
Yes, ma'am.
from the kitchen and garden waste, which are compost.
If it's pure kitchen and garden waste, ma'am, I
Walang
guess we can guarantee. But if it mixed with other components, I guess we'll have to have it subject to the
No,
fertilizer
we
and
only,
pesticides authority.
we only practice the composting of kitchen and garden waste. Okay, go ahead.
Uh, these are just a few examples of how land-based activities can have a direct impact on the health and well-being of the marine ecosystem. Hence, to address this continuous degradation of these ecosystems, it is crucial that we implement a reach-to-reef strategy like ICM. ICM has evolved as a holistic approach that recognizes the intricate impacts of human activities from the ridges of our land to the coastal and marine ecosystems. ICM involves an integrative and interacting planning process that encapsulates the biological, social, and economic intricacies that define the delicate balance of our coastal and marine ecosystems. The bills for discussion this morning illuminate the interconnectivity of our terrestrial and marine environments. We support a strategic and forward-thinking legislative approach that is necessary to ensure the sustained health and functionality of our coastal and marine environments by incorporating land-based activities that impact our coastal and marine ecosystems. Next slide, please. Amid the challenges faced by coastal regions, Executive Order 533, Series of 2006, plays a crucial role in addressing the challenges faced by coastal regions. It provides a legal framework for integrated coastal management, which aims to achieve sustainable development goals such as food security, ecological preservation, poverty reduction, and livelihood sustainability as stated in the Section 1 of the said order. Section 2, furthermore, outlines ICM comprehensive approaches which recognizes the interconnections among watersheds, estuaries, wetlands, and coastal seas. This approach is important because it considers the impacts that originate from upland areas. To effectively manage the complexities of ICM, Section 4 of the said order emphasizes the need to integrate it into national and local government plans. The Coastal and Marine Ecosystems Management Program of the DENR serves as a vehicle for implementing ICM. Despite its progress, challenges persist, which is why a bill has been proposed to enhance ICM. The filed bills seek to address obstacles and strengthen financing, interagency cooperation, and political support, ensuring sustainable development and marine development. I'd like to end the presentation, though not with PowerPoint, on how the ICM can help address issues and gaps in coastal management as experienced by the DENR. First, we expect institutionalized budget support for coastal management. The bill definitely will strengthen the management of coastal areas by institutionalizing the budget and funding mechanisms for coastal management. It has a provision to allocate a budget for ICM in the annual investment plan. The DBM regularly issues a circular from 2019 to the present, enabling LGUs to allocate funds for ICM implementation. However, there is apparently a lack of awareness among the LGUs on how to maximize this policy, and there's need to guide and monitor this initiative. The bills are expected to further institutionalize the implementation of that section in the budget memo and aid in information dissemination and guidance for LGUs. Second, increasing technical capacity at the local level. A prevalent issue in terrestrial and marine management is the lack of ground personnel who will implement and oversee management plans, which are often dependent on job order environment officers who also juggle multiple functions. The ICM bill includes provision for an ICM focal permanent position that will focus in ensuring that proper budget allocation on ICM are reflected in the LGU's annual investment plan. The ICM are mainstream in the CLUP and other development plans such as the Fisheries Management Area Plan, River Management Plan, the MPA Management Plan, among others. Third, the ICM bill will harmonize local mandated plans in the CLUP. Local government units are mandated to do at least 34 sectoral plans annually, covering coastal fisheries to forests, rivers, tourism, and transportation plans, among others. These plans are conducted by different personnel in the LGU with limited insight into integration and how these connect from ridge to reef. The bills, guided by the guidelines issued by the DENR, DABFAR, DSUD, NAMRIA, and other relevant government agencies, provides detailed step-by-step guidance on how to mainstream ICM in the LGU's comprehensive land use planning process. And fourth and last, comprehensive and participatory planning process. The DNR has already issued guidelines, as I've mentioned, in the CMEM, which is one of the bases of the proposed ICM law, and have a detailed step on how to integrate participatory planning process in coming up with the relevant plans and programs. Thank you, Madam Chair, and a pleasant day again to everyone.
Since you represent the BMB, diba? Biodiversity Management Bureau, what is your role in issuing ICC for reclamation?
A department memorandum order was issued, which requires the EMB to involve representatives from the from the Biodiversity Management Bureau, the Forest Management Bureau, and relevant offices of the DNR in the conduct of the project description and proposed project under the environmental impact statement system.
Oh, why
So we
did
are
you-
involved.
So from your talks, you don't agree that we should destroy our coastal areas. Why are you the DNR issuing ECC for reclamation in our coastal area?
Ma'am, we are consulted, involved in the process, but the final decision on the
So,
ECC issuance
You have
is not
no
with,
role.
not in the Bureau, ma'am.
You have no role in that,
Yes, ma'am.
and they don't listen to you.
They put on record the process in terms of consultation.
So what is your opinion on reclamation?
Ma'am, yeah, it is right now, there is this ongoing process, the cumulative impact assessment, which have been assigned by the top management to a group to undertake a science-based inclusive study
So
on
are you
reclamation.
part of that?
No, ma'am, unfortunately.
Who is part of that?
It is,
Kasi we're talking of protection of
yes,
the
ma'am.
coastal area.
Yeah.
And so reclamation is something that is done in the coastal area. So I just want to know who is part of that.
It is overseen by
So why
the
are you here if you are
environment.
not part of the protection of the coastal areas?
Ma'am, I am assigned on a concurrent basis with ensuring that concerns
So
on
who are
the coastal.
involved in the
the-
study of the with regards to the coastal areas?
Initially, ma'am, if there are projects that would locate in coastal areas, the proponents would be required to first present
Yeah,
their
but who are
studies
involved in the
in the review process.
Yeah.
Basically, ma'am, it's I think the discretion of the Environmental Management Bureau
EMB?
to create, yes, ma'am, an
And then-
EIA review committee.
Ano?
EIA review committee.
E
IA, Environmental Impact Assessment Review Committee.
IA
Yes,
Review
ma'am.
Committee. Who is composed of the
Ah.
EIA Review Committee?
Basically, those in the EMB, Environmental Management Bureau,
Hmm.
and invited experts whom they feel would contribute to the
So
enlightenment.
you're not an expert.
As I mentioned, ma'am, we are represented in the EIA review, but this is at the discretion of the environment group in the DENR.
So walang say ang secretary ng DNR?
Eventually, ma'am, the secretary will be has the last say. So subject to the results of the EIA.
Why are you saying that this is the way to protect coastal management when you are not practicing it?
Ma'am, at the bureau level, based on our limited mandate, I would say that we are performing our roles. Unfortunately, I guess we leave it to the DNR top management to finally come up with a decision. In terms of
So we
allowing the
are
projects
just
or not.
talking about principle and opinion, but we are not applying this in our daily work. Would you say that?
Yes, if I may, since 2016, we have already been implementing the CMEP, the Coastal and Marine Ecosystems Management
So what
Program.
is your opinion about reclamation as a BMB head?
I, st- as BMB head and personally, ma'am, I would have to await for the result of this study because from
What is
on our
the
part,
result of the study? Like us, we have a legislated protected area in a coastal area, and it's legislated. It should be protected. How come they're issuing ECC to reclaim that area?
as far as the Bureau is concerned, since I took over 1 year ago as the concurrent head, we see to it that at the very least, we remind our colleagues in the department, among others, about the principles that should guide them in finally coming up with whatever action on reclamation particularly. So definitely we will cite the laws, especially if the
So
proposed
what do you
projects
think
are
is
with
our right as a legislated protected area against reclamation? What do you think?
uh, as a general rule, these interventions on the natural processes, which are the ones we're trying to preserve, protect, and enhance in protected areas, I'd say would be subject to a very strong opposition. So while we may come up with our position on this as not being allowed for protected areas in general, as I mentioned, the final decision doesn't rest with the Bureau.
So wala rin. Even if we pass laws and all these things, wala rin. Even if we pass laws, if your management will decide otherwise, the laws are not honored. So do you think this is we have to pass this law if it will not be honored?
Uh, on the first part, ma'am, we are supporting the passage of the bills into law. On the part of whether this would be followed, I would differ from responding to that because I don't make the decisions as far as whether we allow or if it's a go or no go in terms of these projects that are supposedly in the coastal areas. But as I mentioned, we have been on the
Because our
department level, ma'am.
protected area has a 35 hectares of mangrove.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is the biggest spawning ground of fishes in Manila Bay. And it is supporting 300,000 fishermen in Manila Bay. And I just came from a training program of BIFAR in our farm school. And the one who represented BIFAR said that the Bacoor Bay is the biggest producer of mussel or tahong in the whole Philippines. It's the biggest. Oo, yun ang sabi nila. And there are many students from Metro Manila and Cavite there. So I didn't know that. But the BIFAR said Bacoor Bay is the biggest producer of mussel or tahong in the whole Philippines. How come we are reclaiming the biggest producer of mussel in the whole Philippines? So why are we doing that? So I was so surprised. I didn't know that it's the biggest producer in the whole Philippines, not only in Region 4A, but in the whole Philippines. And there are 300,000 fishermen in Manila Bay na umaasa dyan sa mga fishes na yan in Manila Bay. Oh, and our legislated protected area is the biggest uh, spawning ground of fishes in Manila Bay. And yet gusto nilang i-reclaim yung aming legislated protected area. Kaya nasya-shock ako na na ano ako na bakit hindi na consider yon. Kung yung biggest producer of mussel in the Philippines ire-reclaim natin, what will happen to the Philippines? Kaya tinatanong ko sa inyo, ano yung opinion nyo dito? Bakit tayo magpapasa ng batas tapos hindi naman natin susundin ang batas? 'Di ba? Basta may nakalabi sa atin na maraming pera nalilimutan natin yung batas, 'di ba? Okay. So we hear from the Department of Agriculture to be represented by the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Assistant Director, Mr. Isidro Velayo Jr. Kasi dito, yung coastal area, it's not only the responsibility of DNR, it's also the responsibility of DA. At ang pinakamalaking magre-reclaim doon yung ating Secretary of DA, Prabel. It's so unfortunate naman itong nangyari sa atin. Na kayo yung head ng DA ang biggest na magre-reclaim doon sa Manila Bay. The biggest spawning ground of mussel in the Philippines, ire-reclaim ng Secretary of Department of Agriculture. Ano ba yon? Tama ba yon, Mr. Belayo?
Good morning, ma'am.
Hindi ka na makasalita, natakot ka na.
I'm not quite familiar, ma'am, with the ongoing.
But this is coastal management.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're saying that we have to protect our coastal. Sinabi nga na pinoprotect natin ang coast natin for what is the reason? For biodiversity conservation, sustainable livelihood, food security, climate change resilience, economic development through tourism. Ito. So, then you will tell me you're not familiar.
Because I believe, ma'am, it undergoes the process. Same with my colleague from.
Kami ang PAMBI. Ang PAMBI ng member kami ng PAMBI ng aming legislated protected area. Hindi naman kami nakonsulta. So it undergoes the process. But hindi kami tinanong kami. Ang member ng aming PAMBI is the Wild Bird Club of the Philippines and the Wetland Association for the Preservation of Wetlands. So, and we are judged, yung aming wetland was judged in the Ramsar list as one of the most important wetlands in the world. It's anong number yun? 2021. 8 lang ang wetland sa Philippines that was judged by the 8 wetlands were included in the Ramsar list as the most important wetland in the world, and we're one of the 8. Tubataha Reef, Palawan Underground River, Agusan Mars, Nauhan Lake, Sasmuan Pampanga Wetland, and then the Negros Occidental Wetland, and the Las Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park. We are only 8 in the Philippines. That's part of the wetland of international importance in the world. And because of that, we signed the Ramsar Treaty in 1971, kasama ang Pilipinas with 170 countries. And under the treaty, if you are listed as one of the most important wetland in the world, your government
Recording in progress.
is mandated to protect you. So, tapos sasabihin mo sa akin, hindi ka familiar. You don't know yung mga wetland of international importance in the Philippines. Do you know that?
Yes, sir.
Oh, ano? So what do you think of that? Kasi we're talking of coastal areas, and wetlands are usually in the coastal areas. Can you give your opinion on that?
But pertaining to the bills at hand, the Department of Agriculture and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources are very supportive. And
Ano
that will,
pinasasabi nila sa'yo in this hearing?
we have a position paper, ma'am, pertaining to the bills.
What is your position paper?
May I now allowed to read, ma'am, our
Yeah.
position paper?
Read your
Okay.
position paper.
Good morning po, Madam Chair, and to members of this, the resource speakers as well. The Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources submits its comments on the proposed legislative measures related to the Integrated Coastal Management Acts, as well as the National Coastal Greenbelt Act of 2022. As the main agency of the government mandated by law to ensure the rational and sustainable development, management, and conservation of the fishery and aquatic resources in the Philippine waters, the Bureau expresses its support for policies that adopt a holistic and sustainable approach in developing the country's coastal and marine environment. The existing approaches to coastal management, including integrated coastal management and coastal resources or resource management, are crucial in addressing issues both on land and in coastal areas. The ICM, characterized by its ridge-to-reef approach, recognizes the interconnectedness of coastal and upland ecosystems and aims to achieve sustainable management and development through integrative and participatory planning. ICM as a holistic methodology complements CRM efforts by addressing complex management issues in the coastal zone. It emphasizes the importance of considering diverse societal objectives and needs while taking into account the interactions between biotic, abiotic, and human components of ecosystems. Similarly, the ecosystem approach to fisheries management adopts an integrated approach to fisheries management within ecological boundaries, emphasizing the importance of balancing marine ecosystems health and human well-being. Both ICM and EAFM prioritize good governance and stakeholder participation to attain sustainable fisheries management and development. By integrating these approaches, coastal management efforts can effectively address pollution, habitat degradation, and other threats to coastal ecosystems while promoting the well-being of coastal communities. Emergent laws supporting integrated coastal management implementation in the Philippines include the Philippine Fisheries Code of 1998, or the RA 8550, and its amendment, the Republic Act 10654, as well as the Local Government Code, the 7160. These laws empower coastal, municipal, and city governments to have responsibility over coastal and marine fishery resources within their municipal waters. Moreover, the Local Government Code mandates LGUs to achieve the state policy objective of integrated management of fisheries and aquatic resources. It emphasizes the shared responsibility between LGUs and the national government in maintaining ecological balance within territorial jurisdiction. The code supports inter-LGU collaborations and allows LGUs to group themselves, consolidate, or coordinate efforts for mutual benefit through appropriate ordinances. Concerns have been raised regarding the potential negative consequences of creating additional coordinating institutions, which could result in further divisions and increased top-down management approaches. This stands in contrast to the participatory principle essential for successful implementation of integrated coastal management. Studies have highlighted that the Philippines already has laws supporting ICM implementation. However, weak enforcement of these laws remains a significant issue. Furthermore, there are conflicts and overlaps among existing laws, emphasizing the need for thorough review and revision to establish a robust and effective legal and jurisdictional framework for ICM. BFAR implementation of ICM programs involves various initiatives aimed at managing coastal resources sustainability. This includes capacity building activities for stakeholders and providing technical assistance to local governments in developing CRM plans. These plans are essential for addressing a wide range of coastal issues such as habitat degradation and overfishing. Furthermore, through Fisheries Administrative Order number 260, the BFAR establishes fisheries management areas based on the principles of the ecosystems approach to fisheries management. This FMA serves as spatially delineated areas where fisheries management strategies are applied in an integrated manner. By considering the interconnectedness of coastal and upland ecosystems, FMAs aim to address threats to coastal biodiversity effectively. It is respectfully submitted that DENR should focus on complementary aspects to ensure ecosystem interconnectedness in adopting an integrated approach. Finally, the Bureau would like to manifest that we are willing and ready to participate as part of the proposed scientific advisory group for each province to ensure that integrated coastal management interventions provide sound scientific basis. Rest assured that the Bureau will support the improvement of bills until their eventual passage and implementation. Marami pong salamat.
Ask you a question. Do you think the one in charge in the local government have have abilities to really take care of the coastal management? From your experience, you have been in contact with the local government. Do you think they have the ability to manage coastal management, coastal areas?
Well, generally po, they have the capacity for the LGUs.
Sino ba ang nasa LGU sa coastal management? Ako kasi may LGU ako eh. Ang nakikita ko lang doon eh, yung city agriculturist, tas wala na eh. Oh, who will manage the coastal area?
Technically po, sana dapat they have their own fishery section, ma'am.
Siyudad na
for the
kami ng
fisher.
Metro Manila. Tapos sasabihin mo, generally, tingin mo meron.
Na dapat po sana, ma'am.
Dapat, pero do you think in your experience while working for BFAR, do you think they have the ability to manage their coast? Ang LGU? Kasi sinasabi mo, ibigay natin ang power sa kanila. Paano kung wala silang ability? Why are we giving the power to them? What will happen?
That is why, ma'am, we are having this coastal alliances, ma'am. And then
Well,
having their own,
I haven't experienced that in my city.
in other areas po, we have this,
Bakit meron ka sa
alliances.
other areas? Wala akong nakikita sa amin.
perhaps, ma'am, with the creation of our BFAR NCR, ma'am,
That's
we
why-
could help.
That's why we are we are trying to devise a law na maganda. Tapos bibigay mo yung power do sa lugar na wala naman silang ability to do it. What will happen to our law? Kasi ako may experience ako sa local. Kaya alam ko kung meron sila o wala. I am active in Parañaque, Las Piñas, Bacoor. And I've seen them.
We have bay alliances, ma'am, especially in Mindanao, ma'am. We have.
Saan kayo magaling? Sabihin mo nga sa akin para titingnan ko.
If you're familiar with this, in Misamis Occidental, ma'am, they have this, they have their own park in
They
Di
have
mo
their own.
the Smoap Misamis Occidental Aqua Park area in Misamis Occidental area, I think. We have alliances, ma'am, actually, the Bay Alliances. And then with our FMA right now, ma'am, these fisheries management areas, we have our own management boards and these FMAs. We have scientific advisory groups
Tingnan mo
already.
nga. Ilista mo nga yan. Ano sinasabi mo? Ano yan sinasabi mo?
These fishery management areas po, all over the country, ma'am.
Can you submit me
Yes,
this to
ma'am.
me? Nasaan yung fishery management area
Yes,
nyo?
ma'am.
And then what else?
We have these fishery management areas all over the country, ma'am.
And then,
12 po ito, ma'am.
sure ka dyan.
Yes po. According to our Fisheries Administrative
Ako
Order
nga, kung hindi
63.
ko nilegislate yung fish hatcheries, ayaw nyo nga i-build eh. 10 years ako sa agriculture eh. Kaya ako nile-legislate, sinasabi ko sa lahat, i-legislate nyo sa House, pa-legislate nyo sa inyong sa inyong congressman para siguro pag legislated matatakot sila i-build nila. Ayaw nila i-build eh. Ano lang 'yon? Fish hatcheries para meron tayong source of fingerlings that will improve our aquaculture and our local fisheries. Ayaw nyo nga i-build tapos sasabihin mo sa akin may fishery management area kayo. What else do you have?
Pertaining to our legislated hatcheries po, we were able to construct 27 LH already, ma'am. And ongoing construction is about 12.
Kaya nga, 41. Kasi nilegislate
Yes,
ko,
ma'am.
kaya natakot kayo. Pero nung hindi nile-legislate yan, wala kayong tinatayong fish hatcheries. How can you improve fishing nang walang source of fingerlings? Di ba?
We are really
sasabihin mo
thankful.
sa akin yung local, meron silang ability for fishing management area. Can you submit to me
Yes,
yung
ma'am.
mga project mo sinasabi at saan lugar yun para titingnan ko kung totoo yun.
For the fishery
Doon lang
management
sa
areas.
fish hatchery, hirap na hirap ako sa inyo eh. Kung hindi ko pa ni-legislate at hindi nyo i-build eh. 10 taon na, 11 taon na ako sa DA. Kaya alam ko na lahat ng istorya nyo eh. Tapos sasabihin mo sa akin, kasi inaano mo na ibigay sa local government yung coastal management. Do they have the ability to do it? Ako tinanong ko yung aking yung the only one involved in agriculture in our city. Sabi ko, ano ba ginagawa nyo? Nag-aano daw sila? Nag-i-injection ng aso. Yun lang ang ginagawa niya. Nung sabihin niya sa akin na nag-injection siya ng aso, hindi ko na siya inasahan. Ako na lang ang nagtrabaho. Ako nagtayo ng farm school, ako nagtayo ng Las Piñas, Parañaque Wetland Park, at ako mag-isang nakikipag-away na wag i-reclaim yung Las Piñas, Parañaque Wetland Park. Wala namang nag-intindi. Tapos sasabihin mo, i-delegate sa kanila yung power. Paano kung hindi intindihan? Useless din ang batas natin. Ang dami nating batas, hindi naman na-implement. And one of them is that legislated hatcheries na yan. Kung hindi pa kami nag-legislate, walang itatayo.
Then in addition po, ma'am, we are pushing hard for the aquaculture development po.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Because before, ang aquaculture natin is 70%, is 30%. Ang ating wild catch is 70%. Ngayon, ang aquaculture 54%, ang wild catch has gone down to 46%. Ibig sabihin, hindi na talaga pinakikinabangan yung ating coastal areas. Kasi yan ang wild catch yung municipal waters, 'di ba? So ngayon ang nagpo-produce mas malaki ang production. Dati 30% ang aquaculture, naging 54, tapos ngayon yung dating 70% na wild catch ngayon 46 na lang. So nakikita nyo na nagbabago na yung trend. Talagang nasisira ang ating coastal areas kasi it's not producing anymore what they're supposed to be producing before. Kaya tinatanong ko, tapos susulat tayo sa ating coastal area management. baka mali masulat natin batas kasi ibinigay natin yung power sa mga tao na hindi naman cannot do it. O kaya kita tinatanong kung do you think yung local government can do it? Kasi from my experience, city na kami, mas malaki budget namin. Walang nangyayari. Di how much more yung mga local government na maliliit, na walang budget, na ano gagawin nila, 'di ba? So, yun lang. Sige. So, just submit your position paper.
We submitted that already po.
So, ang nakita ko lang dito is yung position paper ng BMB. Wala akong nakitang position paper ng fishery. Okay. We now call the sino susunod? Dito, Neda? Ma'am, nandito. Tourism. Sino ang magsasalita? Ayan, ma'am, tourism. Okay, we now call on the Department of Tourism.
Good morning, Madam Senator. The Department of Tourism fully supports the proposed Senate bill on the development of ICM. And we believe that this will further help the tourism to become more sustainable, especially in the coastal areas. Based on our National Tourism Development Plan, in 2018, I think the coastal areas have been further. Sorry, madam. At present, most of the prominent tourism destination of the country are located along the western lowland coastal areas. The growth and development of these areas as a result of our NTDP and plan should transition to supporting the growth of other communities, especially on those low-lying areas. Ocean tourism significantly contributed to the economy of the Philippines as an archipelagic nation with one of the longest coastline, especially in the blue economy and blue finance, towards sustainable development and ocean governance. That would one of the richest marine environment in terms of biodiversity. We also believe that developing the Philippine blue economy opportunity and challenges, the ocean tourism sector will further boost our tourism industry. With that, we thank you, Madam Senador. Mostly, ma'am, our destinations are with the coastal heavily on the central Philippines po, yung group of islands. Those are areas.
Ano yun?
Ma'am, for example, ma'am, yung mga island destinations po natin like Boracay.
Basta coastal area, it's not necessarily an island. It's along the coast, di ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, what are your good tourism coastal areas?
Ma'am, we have the Boracay with the coastal areas.
Boracay, what
Yes,
else?
ma'am, Bohol, Cebu.
Where in Bohol?
I think Panlaw, ma'am, is the most prominent destinations that we have.
Where else?
Cebu, yeah.
Where in Cebu?
Mactan is the most heavily preferred destination.
Where
And,
else?
aside from Boracay, ma'am, Mindoro.
Where in Mindoro?
Oriental po.
Where?
In Puerto Galera.
What
And,
else? Where else?
Or Davao City, ma'am, Samal Island is a destinations with.
Where else?
I think we have been for Luzon, ma'am, Batangas. There's a Anilao for the diving areas.
Doon ba yun sa Verde Island Passage?
That's part of the areas din also.
Diba
ma'am.
na-damage yun?
Yes, ma'am. Mhm.
Batangas, Mindoro, di ba?
Yes, ma'am. So in Pangasinan, like 100 Islands and Zambales.
Doon sa Zambales.
The most popular, ma'am, yung sa, aside from Subic po, meron din po yung sa, the most common is yung nasa bandang northern part po.
Ano yun?
Castales, yung mga ganun pa. Yung may island din pa. Castillejos pa.
Where else?
For northern po, Pagudpud is yeah, Locos, yeah.
Sa ano? La Union.
Yes, ma'am.
O ano doon sa La Union?
San Juan po. And the old yung Bawang, La Union. San Juan and Bawang.
Kalimutan mo ang Siargao.
Yeah, ma'am. Sorry for that, ma'am. Even in
Mindanao. Palawan.
Palawan po and Aurora, Baler. Catanduanes din po. Mhm.
Ano ang sikat sa Catanduanes?
Yung sa yung surf camp surf, ma'am, yung sa Bagasbas.
Pagaspas?
Bagasbas, ma'am.
Ba't hindi ko yata nadidinig yun?
Nauso, ma'am, yung mga windsurfing before and it's also a surfing destinations for
Luzon. 100 Island, Luzon. So,
for latest
good. San Juan. Bawan. Siargao. Mindanao. Palawan, Luzon. Baler, Luzon. Mindanao mo lang, Siargao at saka Samal Island. Wala na ba iba sa Mindanao?
Camiguin po. Zamboanga Peninsula, ma'am.
Malaki yung Zamboanga Peninsula.
Sampen.
Ano maganda dun sa Zamboanga Peninsula?
Yung
Malaki yun eh. Zamboanga del Norte, Zamboanga del Sur,
Del Norte
Zamboanga
po.
Sibugay, Zamboanga City. Alin doon?
Del Norte, ma'am. Yung sa Sampen that they're
Yung,
promoting.
ano, coastal ba yung si ano? Yung kay Halusos? Ano pangalan nun?
Dakak, ma'am.
Naka-coastal ba yun?
Apa.
What else? Yun lang Dakak.
Ma'am, those are the popular destinations pa lang naman. But most of the
Zamboanga.
has the potential to become a destination po.
17.
But we can submit.
Yeah, you submit to
ma'am.
me.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, we go to the next one. DILG.
Ay, tumabas. Ay, BILG.
Wala.
Nandiyan siya, ma'am. Lumabas.
Lumabas. O, anong role ng DSUD? You are, nandiyan ba DSUD? O, so, what is your position paper? DSUD.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, Madam Chair. We would like to express our support for the Senate bill that is presented if I may be allowed to just give you a brief overview of our position and the background on how we arrive at our position. I think we have some PowerPoint. Good morning, Madam Chair, and the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change. We would like to thank the Honorable Senator and the authors of Senate Bill 126, 1342, 2397, 113, 591, 117, and 1237, and to all the distinguished members, resource persons from both the national government agencies and our stakeholders to this committee meeting. Good morning po. I'm Undersecretary Henry Yap. I'm the Undersecretary for Planning, International Cooperation, and Institutional Membership. Next slide, please. The Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development is actually the primary national government agency responsible for the management of housing, human settlements, and urban development. It is also mandated to oversee the establishment of estate and new towns, new settlements, urban renewal programs, and prototypes of housing and urban development interventions in coordination with both national attached agencies and concerned organizations. Within our department, we have an Environmental, Land Use, and Urban Planning and Development Bureau, or ELUP-DB, that performs human settlements and planning-related functions, including the formulation of land use planning guidelines, urban development designs, standard policies, programs, and technical assistance to the LGU and other stakeholders. Flash before you are some of the legal mandates that covers our practice, including that of Republic Act 11201 and Republic Act 7160. In general, next slide please. The Department of Human Settlements would like to express its full support for the passage of the proposed measure adopting a national strategy to ensure sustainable development of coastal and marine environment and resources in the country, and the establishment of a national Greenbelt program which seeks to reduce the impacts of cyclones in our coastal communities. Next slide, please. However, considering that the role of the SUD ELUP-DB in land use, water use, and physical planning, particularly in the formulation of planning and zoning standards for both the comprehensive land use plans and provincial development plans and physical framework plans, we would like to highlight the following. May we recommend the modification of our grading to use the term integrated ecosystem management in lieu of the term integrated coastal management.
Post lang tayo to build
Yes, we believe
everything.
that for us to be able to undertake this, there is need to adopt a holistic and integrated management of all our ecosystems in addressing our environmental degradation. Our marine waters cannot be addressed within the coast alone. We believe that most pollutants actually come from the land, and these various waste and contaminants actually result in the degradation, deforestation, industrial emission that eventually ends up in our sea. Thus, the need for a bigger role in integrated ecosystem management. Nonetheless, the IEM also would espouse the same elements and principles of the ICM, namely interagency, LGU, and multisectoral alliances, people participate.
Na responsibility, yung hindi naman kayang gawin. Ito lang coastal management, mabigat na to eh. O, sasamahan pa natin ng integrated ecosystem management. Kasama na dyan ang ano eh, ang pati yung pag-manage ng basura, di ba? Hindi na kaya yan. So, if the coastal areas are affected by basura, meron na kami napasa na bill dyan yung extended producer responsibility. Usually, ang pumupunta sa coastal area ay plastic. Yun ang pumapatay sa mga fish. Kaya ngayon, nagpasa na tayo ng extended producer responsibility because we are a sachet economy. So, ang mga tinatapon nila yung mga sachet. So, ngayon, we're giving the responsibility to the manufacturer of sachet that they have to process their waste. Kahit na naipagbili nila to other people, it's still their responsibility because they are required to do that in Europe. So if they can do it in Europe, itong malalaking kumpanya to, they can do that in the Philippines. So kaya yung ganon, ibang law na yon. Kasi kung pagsasama-samahin natin dito, mawawalan tayo ng focus.
Thank you for that. We actually have also, if I may cut short my presentation. Sorry if I may cut short my presentation, ma'am. We also agreed that actually we have a secondary position, which is that, and we do agree that we would integrate the National Coastal Greenbelt plans, which are covered and proposed under this bill, particularly the provisions relating to the formulation of the National Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan, and the DSUD would support the passage of a bill and work closely with the Senate and other legislations for the formulation of this plan. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Can you just submit your position paper? So we now call on DILG.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. The Department of the Interior and Local Government fully supports the passage of the bills on Integrated Coastal Management Act and the National Coastal Greenbelt Act of 2025. The initiatives of the department, one of the initiatives of the department on coastal management is the development of the Fisheries Compliance Audit. It was first introduced in 2018 pursuant to the Republic Act 7160 or the Local Government Code and the Republic Act 8550 or the Fisheries Code as amended by Republic Act 10654. The Fisheries Compliance Audit is intended to be used by the local government units, the national government agencies, and partner organizations as an assessment tool, a planning tool, and a monitoring tool. As an assessment tool, this validates the status of LGU's compliance with their mandates on the management of municipal waters in
What did you
accordance.
say that you are trying to implement the Fisheries Code?
The Fisheries Compliance Audit, ma'am,
Fisheries Compliance Audit based
Yes.
on what law?
on the Local Government Code and the Fisheries Code.
Fisheries Code. Hindi ba pinasa natin sa Fisheries IUUF? Yung ba yun?
Sige po. So the Fisheries Compliance Audit po is an assessment tool that validates the status of LGU's compliance with their
What is
mandates.
the law that we pass with regards to that fishery compliance audit?
The Fisheries Code po, 8550 and or 80654.
Check mo kayo. Okay, go ahead. Check.
Yan po. This is also a planning tool, particularly forming part of the situational analysis, an important planning reference to implement necessary programs, projects, and activities that aim to address
you're
development.
asking the local government to implement this fisheries compliance audit.
The DILG, ma'am, implements the Fisheries Compliance Audit. This is the
Who implements the local government or DILG?
the DILG, ma'am, as a monitoring tool with their
And you're
compliance.
saying that the local government is implementing this?
Their mandates, ma'am, on based on the Fisheries
What
Code.
local government is implementing this? Our local government.
All coastal governments, ma'am, within the
Teka,
Philippines.
may coastal rin kami.
Yes, ma'am, including
Okay,
the
bakit
Las
wala?
Piñas.
Ganyan.
You do have, ma'am, sa Las Piñas po. We yearly assess po the 5 coastal cities in the National Capital Region, including
Can
Las
you give me
Piñas.
the report on that?
Yes, ma'am, sure po.
Wala akong
We also have a report, ma'am, on the nationwide total of
Wala akong
930
nakikitang
coastal
ganyan sa Las
LGUs. Sige po, ma'am. We will furnish you
Sino
a copy po.
nag-implement yan sa Las Piñas? Anong office sa local government?
Sa Mau po, ma'am.
Ano?
Sa agriculture po, city agriculture. Kay Doc
Eh,
Meat po.
hindi nga. Nag-aano lang siya. Tinanong ko siya kung ano ginagawa niya. Wala naman siya sinasabing fishery. Sabi
Yes,
niya,
ma'am.
nag-aano siya ng aso.
Opo, kasi city vet din po siya as far as I
Ayun
know.
nga.
Opo.
So, why are you saying that they are implementing?
Ma'am, actually, ma'am,
Siya kaya nung pagkakausap ko sa kanya, di ko na siya kinausap uli.
I also worked in Central Las Piñas before, ma'am. So,
Oh.
yun po, na-assess ko po sila. Actually, the City of Las Piñas, hindi po nila masyadong ganun ka-alam yung fisheries compliance audit. Pero nung na-validate po naman sila, parang doon din
Meron
sila
kaming Las
na-inform.
Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park. Wala, bihira naman. The only one in Metro Manila.
Mhm.
So, dapat kami ang pinakamagaling, di ba? Kasi meron kami. The only one in Metro Manila. So, one of the most important wetland in the world. Wala akong nadidinig na may fisheries doon.
Actually, ma'am, yung Las Piñas po, I think they enacted their municipal fisheries ordinance last year lang din po, 2023.
May municipal fisheries
Yes po.
ordinance sila.
Opo. Newly enacted lang din po.
Hindi ko nakita yun. Alam ko, gusto nila ipa-reclaim yung aming fisheries.
Yes.
Ano nilagay nila sa ordinance? Ipa-reclaim yung aming fisheries, yung aming bay,
Hindi
yung
naman.
Manila Bay. At yun ang nilagay nila sa ordinance. So, because, yun nga tayo nga daw ang the biggest mussel producer in the Philippines. Tahong. Yun ang pinakamalaking produce ng Bacoor Bay. Kasi we're part of that Bacoor Bay. O tapos merong Fisheries Code ang Las Piñas, ha? Ngayon ko lang nadinig yun.
Mga fisheries kasi meron silang to regulate the municipal waters. Dredging. Pero wala tayong
This is the Philippine Fisheries Code of 1998. It's not a local bill. Diba? Parang yung local government is mandated to protect its municipal waters. Oo, yun ang gusto nga nilang pa-reclaim yung municipal water. Mawawala na kami ng municipal water. They're not there to protect it. They're there to destroy it. So. And I think many of the municipal waters in the Philippines are being destroyed, di ba? Pati yung Iloilo, magre-reclamation na rin sila, di ba? Iloilo City, nabasa ko Lahat sila magre-reclamation na. So, ano ilalagay natin dito sa ating coastal management, pagbabawal natin? Okay, go ahead, Iyo.
And to constantly remind our LGUs po of their standing mandate to ensure that fishery laws and policies are enforced, followed, and implemented within their areas of jurisdiction, the DLG issued memorandum circulars po. These memorandum circulars po, one is the guidelines on the implementation of the fisheries compliance audit, policy and guidelines on the regulation and monitoring of fishery activities in the municipal water. We have also issued the LGUs directing the parties to participate and support the DAB for rollout pursuant to DA FAO number 260 or the establishment of fisheries management areas, the fisheries compliance audit validation process in the Manila Bay watershed area, the reiteration of the LGMC 2018-147, and the guidelines in the enactment and or updating of municipal fisheries ordinance.
So,
So,
that's all.
allow me to finish, ma'am. So, this FishCA po, it utilizes an audit tool din po which is being basically recalibrated as needed in collaboration with the National Validation Team. These are composed of various national government agencies and non-government organizations. The NVT regularly convene po yearly, and we also have the Fishka Award, the recognition and incentive component of the Fishka initiated last 2020. This is to acknowledge the high-level compliance of Philippine fisheries laws and best practices on marine and aquatic resources management that LGUs have exhibited. And in relation to the roles of the LGUs in the management of municipal waters, the Fishka that focus on basic mandates of LGUs which have opportunities for recalibration to expand other pertinent responsibilities covered by the Fisheries Code. And first, these are the indicators po that being assessed during the compliance audit po. So, first is the Municipal City Fisheries Ordinance. LGUs dapat po they have enacted their own municipal fisheries ordinance. Second is the delineation of their municipal waters with the help from the DENR NAMRIA. Third is the Coastal Resource Management Plan. It should be integrated within their CLUP or CDP or also standalone plan. And the ordinance on IUUF, creation of municipal or city farm seas, the fishery law enforcement officers or yung bantay dagat po, the registry of municipal fisher folk and fishing vessels and gears, issuance of auxiliary invoices, functional post-harvest facilities, provision of technical supports by the LGU to our small-scale fisher folks, the collaboration on coastal resource management. So, yun po yung mga indicators that being assessed po during the audit.
Can you submit what you have said so we will check if that is really being implemented in the local level?
Yes, ma'am. We will submit po the nationwide fisheries compliance audit and the validation assessment in the Manila Bay watershed area. Thank you po.
We go now to the Department of Public Works.
Good morning, Madam Chair of the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change, and fellow government servants. Let me allow me, Madam Chair, to have the presentation on behalf of the DPWH on our comments on the Integrated Coastal Management Act and the National Greenbelt Act. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. On the Integrated Coastal Management Act, we actually suggest the inclusion of the Secretary of the DPWH as core member of the National Coordinating Committee, considering that DPWH as an infrastructure agency has direct concerns on disaster risk reduction and management as well as infrastructure development in coastal areas. For example, we build coastal protection facilities and coastal highways in said areas. So we suggest inclusion here in Senate Bills number 126 and 1342. Next is that we agree.
What do you think of magpunta ako sa summer and later during Yolanda. Lahat ng bayan na may mangrove forest sa coast na safe from Yolanda. Tapos yung wala, pinasok sila. And then paglabas, dala lahat ang bahay, dala lahat ang tao. So what do you think na di ba mas maganda yung mangrove forest kesa magtayo tayo ng mga coastal na protection ng DPWH na kay mamahal tapos hindi nakakaya yung Kasi sa amin may ginawa sila na kayo DPWH na river isang bagyo lang nagiba lahat so tapos nakita ko yung sa Yolanda na lahat ng may coastal mangrove forest doon hindi na damage ng Yolanda. So what do you think of that na baka better pa magtanim na lang tayo ng mangrove along the coast kaysa mag-build tayo ng DPWH coast protection?
Yes, Madam Chair. Most probably it would depend on the extremity or scale of the storm surges or even tsunami in any case.
Pero
So
yung
it will
grabe
depend on
na yan.
the
Oo.
it will all
Pero kung
depend
halimbawa
on the site.
magtatanim ka lang ng mangrove, di ba mura lang yon? O kaysa mag-finance ka ng ano, dapat may opinion kayo dyan para makatipid tayo kasi para encourage natin yung mga tao na magtanim na lang ng mangrove along the coast. Tapos nakaka-produce pa ng isda yung mangrove forest along the coast. Dapat mag-aral na rin kayo niyan para alam nyo kung ano i-advise nyo. Kasi ako, from my experience, mas matindi ang protection from mangrove forest kesa ano. Let's ask yung mga expert dito. What do you think about ano? Kasi nakita ko yun sa Summer Leyte no, lahat ng may mangrove forest sa coast, hindi na damage na Yolanda. Lahat ng wala pinasok ng typhoon surge. Tapos yan din na experience namin dito kaya kami yung buong Las Piñas Parañaque may mangrove forest kasi nakita ko Kaya we're always planting mangroves kasi parang tingin ko mas malaki pa protection niya kaysa yung tayuan mo ng ano ng infrastructure protection.
Green infrastructure. Tapos
Oh.
yun, sa
So
kanila
dapat
green.
mag-opinion kayo dyan para 'di ba mas tingin ko mas mura magtanim ng mangrove kasi pag pag yung infrastructure niya mahal Oh, pero okay lang 'yon kung gagawa ng kalye pero pag hindi gagawa ng kalye baka mas maganda tamnan na lang ng mangrove kasi baka mas better, mas sturdy. Oh. I just want your opinion on that. Can you do an opinion on that? Ano yung ng mangrove compared to DPWH na slope protection? Kasi sa amin yung ginawa ng DPWH sa Bacoor site, isang bagyo lang bumagsak lang. Oh. Yung amin sa Las Piñas hindi bumagsak kasi nilagyan namin ng kalye. So talagang pinagbuti yung aming slope protection kasi it will support a road. Pero yung Bacoor, it's just supporting walang road, bumagsak. So what do you think of that?
Madam Chair,
Pwede
basically.
ba aralan mo yun?
Yes, basically, Madam Chair, in the DPWH, because we're preparing what we call the flood risk management master plans, we basically have both structural and non-structural measures. And as part of the non-structural measures, including the nature-based solutions, we also want to promote mangroves, the development of mangroves or propagation. Later in the presentation, we will have an example of our ADB-assisted project to show that we just don't build great infrastructure, but also we resort to green infrastructure for such cases. May I be allowed to continue, Madam Chair? For the next one is that we agree on that the side of the elements of the national ICM framework, that the components of the framework should be specifically mentioned, already mentioned in Senate Bills 126 and 1342. Starting with the goals and objectives, strategies and action plans, required policy or legislation, information and public awareness campaign, financing mechanism, and capacity building and national ICM training program. This is for the purpose to ensure that the framework will be operational. Next, which is not cited here, is that we recommend the post-evaluation assessment of implemented projects under the program as additional function of the regional provincial city or municipal development council to ensure or even to verify the effectivity of such program. Next, this slide, okay. So for this slide, so under section 8, powers functions of the National Coordinating Committee on the ICM of Senate Bills number 2397 and House Bill 7767, we suggest to include dredging permits, clearances among the permits issued by the government, in addition to foreshore lease agreements, forest management agreements, special land use permits, and mining permits. It is for the reason that we believe that dredging within the waterways of the river basin would really affect the transport of sediments going even to our coastal areas. So sometimes this causes coastal erosion in some of our coastal areas in the Philippines. Next is that we note that following elements of the National ICM framework covers or is related to our ongoing, DPW's ongoing JICA Technical Cooperation Project for capacity development in coastal engineering for disaster resiliency. So mainly the capacity building programs and or development of coastal and marine spatial planning tools, knowledge management research and development program. Next slide, please. So basically, this is our technical cooperation project wherein the overall goal is to have the disaster risk in the coastal area is reduced by countermeasures of coastal management and or improved condition of infrastructure. So our project goal, which is the short term, which is within the 5 years duration of the study of the technical cooperation, is that DPWH capacity on coastal management is strengthened through human resource development and development of technical guidelines. Basically, this technical cooperation project includes lectures, seminars, case studies, development of guidelines in planning and design of coastal infrastructure. One worth to note is that JICA experts basically, one of the JICA expert that was dispatched for this project basically believed that we should have our infrastructure offset towards the land to allow a sandy beach to be present in our coastal area. So that's one thing that we want to consider in our planning and design of coastal facilities. Next, we have our comments on the next slide, please. These are comments on the National Greenbelt Act. So under the relevant provisions of the Greenbelt Act, which is the operational plan, this is on the creation of the National Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan or the National Coastal Greenbelt Management Plan. It is suggested to also introduce potential structural interventions that will support or promote the growth of mangroves and other beach forest species. For example, we have the root program. Also, in addition to that, we found out that under the act that breakwater was considered as an illegal structure, and we hope maybe this should not be classified as such, as this breakwater basically is to protect our coastlines from strong storm surges. So that's one of our recommendations. Basically, Madam Chair, that we also have maybe a more detailed list of our position or comments on our December 12, 2023 letter address to you, Madam Chair. Then finally, we will have an image of the root model I was referring to. This root program is basically, it's a structural intervention, but it aims to promote the growth of our mangroves. Basically, if there's new mangroves or how do you call it, young mangroves, it's basically our position on the Integrated Coastal Management Act. The department strongly supports the proposed act, which provides a holistic and sustainable approach to coastal management. It supports the implementation of the national ICM framework and local ICM plans and promotion of ICM best practices. For the National Greenbelt Act, the department strongly supports the proposed act, which designates areas for coastal greenbelts designed to prevent coastal erosion and mitigate the impacts of natural coastal hazards on human lives and properties, as it complements DPWH efforts in coastal disaster mitigation and resiliency. Finally, of course, there were recommendations to consolidate both bills into one. So that is basically our position of the DPWH. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Can you submit that?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Now we hear from the NEDA. No. It's Climate Change Commission.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Romel Antonio Cuenca, Deputy Executive Director of the Climate Change Commission. In behalf of the CCC, we thank the Senate Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change, especially through its esteemed chair, for the opportunity to share our views and to be part of the discussions today. We'd like to say that as far back as 2022, the CCC has issued its official position paper on the proposed ICM Act, and these have been since updated with the issuance of other newly issued national guidance documents. The Climate Change Commission would like to say that it strongly supports the implementation of the proposed measures on integrated coastal management and the National Coastal Greenbelt, as both initiatives align with 6 out of the 7 thematic priorities of the National Climate Change Action Plan. And these 6 thematic priorities are food security, water sufficiency, the environment and ecological stability, human security, climate smart industries and services, and knowledge and capacity development. The Climate Change Commission acknowledges the significance of ICMA and NCGA to further strengthen coastal management frameworks, enhance government agencies and stakeholders coordination, and promote intensive conservation and sustainable coastal resources. These proposed measures also align with the Philippines' commitments under the international agreements such as the Paris Agreement and the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. This is, of course, also aligned, and we'd like to emphasize this, with the recently issued Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028. Further, one of the key sectors identified in what will eventually be formally launched, Philippines National Adaptation Plan, or NAP, is the ecosystems and biodiversity sector. With the worsening climate trends causing severe impacts on Philippine ecosystems, biodiversity, and overall ecological stability, if not addressed promptly, the National Adaptation Plan identified strategies to safeguard and nurture biodiversity, restoring and sustaining natural assets, which target the following outcomes. First, ecosystems accounts developed and regularly updated to monitor and enhance regulating services for adaptation. Second, protected and rehabilitated biodiversity across habitats and ecosystems. And third, enabled and empowered communities to lead ecological management. We have more specific points which we'd like the committee to consider, Madam Chair, but we have submitted this with our position paper dated yesterday, and we have submitted this to the Honorable Committee, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the space.
Okay. Maybe you could submit something more, ano, wag yung generalized principle. You can submit some projects that you want to do from the Climate Change Commission. Kasi ako, yung lahat ng under sa akin, I asked them to do something particular in a community that I can see that you are helping the environment. Kasi I don't see this in the Climate Commission. Parang mas international kayo eh. Punta kayo ng punta sa abroad. Oo. Hindi kayo bumababa sa Pilipinas at pinakikita nyo what Climate Change Commission can do for the people. Yung magpakita lang kayo sa akin ng ganon para makita ko yung yung effect nyo sa ordinary people dito sa Pilipinas. So, kasi yun ang comment sa inyo masyadong international.
Thank you, Madam.
Itong iyong position paper, para nahihirapan ako intindihin. Oo. Gusto ko mas mas down to earth na position paper kahit na alam ko hindi naman malaki yung inyong agency, but give me an example of what you can do to help the environment of the Philippines. Yung ganun lang.
Certainly, Madam Chair.
Especially dito sa coastal area, 'di ba? Kasi ang problem natin sa coastal area is climate change. Parang sea level rise at saka extreme weather. maybe you can suggest how we will uh, partially solve this sea level rise and or in your own way, sea level rise and extreme weather conditions. Kasi yan ang problema. In fact, lahat ng nasa coast yan ang kinatatakutan. Yung sea level rise. That in the future, masyadong tataas yung sea level natin. And then, that will enter. Parang sinasabi nila, bumababa yung soil, tumataas yung water. After a while, ang laki ng water, kasi kumukuha tayo ng water sa soil eh. So bumababa. It's like in Metro Manila, the level of the soil is going down and the sea is going up. So talagang flooding yan after a while. So I just want you to have an opinion on what project we should do to not really to completely solve this, but to make some difference that this will not happen in the future. I don't think it will happen in my lifetime, but I don't want it to happen to my children, diba? So yun lang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll certainly do that. We agree with the chair's observation, sea level rise, and we'd like to input also that with the Philippines, we're 3 times the global average in terms of the effects of sea level rise.
Yeah, sobra.
Yes,
So,
kung
kaya
33
nakakatakot
centimeters. Yes, sa ibang,
prediction nila sa Metro Manila.
yes po.
Just like I went to Indonesia, I was invited to observe kasi they're good in coconut and intercropping with cacao, diba? So I went there to see. I went to an island and that island disappeared. Oh, and now they're transferring the capital of Indonesia from Jakarta to another place because Jakarta is sinking. And there is a prediction that Metro Manila will sink also. So maybe you can have an opinion on that, and then you propose to us what we can do to mitigate that. So,
We shall be happy to.
from the Climate Change Commission.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the guidance. We shall be happy to do that and give you a more detailed report on what we can do for our local communities.
Thank you. We now hear from NEDA.
Good morning, Madam Chair. On behalf of NEDA, we would like to raise the following general comments and recommendations on the proposed bills. In general, the overall intent of the bills to ensure sustainable management of the country's coastal and marine environment and resources through the adoption of integrated coastal management as a national strategy is aligned with our National Development Trust espoused in the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028. In particular, Chapters 5, Modernize Agriculture and Agribusiness, and Chapter 15, Accelerate Climate Action and Strengthen Disaster Risk Resilience. In particular, the passage of the ICM will contribute towards developing the blue economy, including the promotion of viable livelihood options for coastal communities. It will also strengthen the capacity of LGUs and communities in disaster prevention and preparedness, intensify ecosystem protection, rehabilitation and management, and promote and expand natural resource-based industries and enterprises. Moreover, the enactment of the ICM Act is among the priority legislative agenda in the PDP 2023 to 2028. Given the common objective of the bills, we recommend consolidating the bills into one. At present, Senate Bill 2397 may be considered as the working draft, considering its clear and comprehensive provisions, particularly on underscoring sustainable management in related ecosystems aside from coastal ecosystems. In addition, Senate Bill 2397 has already incorporated previous comments submitted by the NEDA to the counterpart bills filed in the House of Representatives during the 18th and 19th Congresses, which include enhancing the policy statement, scope, and coverage, powers and functions of the National Coordinating Committee, the National ICM Framework, and elements of the National ICM Framework. Revisiting the ICM best practices following Section 4 on the implementation of ICM programs of Executive Order 533, Series of 2006, and also including the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development as member of the National Coordinating Committee, and including a provision on the prohibited acts. Notwithstanding, the following are our comments to further enhance Senate Bill 2397. These are consistent with the approved position or comments previously submitted by NEDA in 2023. On the National Coastal Greenbelt Act Action Plan, Section 31, and the Local Coastal Greenbelt Plan, Section 34, we recommend integrating the elements of the national and local coastal Greenbelt action plans into existing comprehensive land use plans instead of formulating a separate plan focusing on coastal Greenbelt. This is to streamline the number of plans to be developed by LGUs, considering that at present there are already numerous plans developed at the local level. In fact, the DILG estimates that LGUs are mandated to prepare around 33 sectoral and thematic plans. Moreover, the development of a separate plan contradicts the ridge to reef approach, which stresses the collaboration and interdependency among LGUs spanning across ecosystems. With this, we suggest integrating the elements or expected contents of the National Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan and the Local Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan into the elements of the National ICM Framework, Section 9 of Senate Bill 2397. On the coordination of ICM programs, plans, and activities at the city and municipal levels, Section 13, and ICM Office, Section 14, we suggest merging similar provisions in the bill that can be streamlined further to avoid duplication of functions among offices involved. For instance, the institutional arrangements and proposed functions at the city and municipal levels concerning the coordination and monitoring of ICM-related activities, plans, and programs as espoused under Section 15 of Senate Bill 2397 may be combined with the proposed similar functions of the ICM office that will be established under the Provincial Development Council as indicated under Section 17 of the same bill. Madam Chair, the NEDA will submit its signed position paper since we received new input this morning. So we will consolidate and submit to your office. Thank you.
My only comment is you're very specific and very supportive of the land use plan. Ang problema ng land use plan, hindi naman beggars cannot be chooser. Pag meron kang local government, kung ano dumating na investment doon, yun ang iaano mo. Ngayon, kung wala yun sa land use plan, tatanggihan mo yung investment. Yun ang ayoko dun sa very strict land use plan. Kasi hindi naman, yung mga local government, especially yung hindi naman prime na local government, hindi naman nila napipili kung ano investment ang dadating sa kanila. Ibig mo sabihin, tatanggihan nila investment dahil wala sa land use plan. I don't think they will do that. Kaya minsan, sayang lang yung land use plan. Diba? Kasi, syempre, any local government would want investment to come to their towns and cities. Kung hindi tumama sa land use plan, tatanggihan mo yung investment. I don't think they will do that. Kaya minsan mahirap yung land use plan, yung very strict na land use plan. We should be more practical. Kasi sabi nga namin, beggars cannot be chooser. Hindi naman tayo pwedeng mamili kung sino dadating sa atin. Kung sino dumating, itry natin na mag-invest sa atin at ayusin natin. But a very strict land use plan, mahirap yan for the Philippines kasi hindi naman tayo sobra-sobra investment. swerte na nga may dadating sa ating investment. Kung pipigilin natin yon dahil it's not according to the land use plan, I don't think that's practical. Ako kasi, I've seen that. Siyempre, yung mga local government, gusto din nilang may mag-invest sa kanila para may income yung local government. Tatanggihan mo dahil hindi tama sa land use plan. Who are you to say that what is good for the city is based on a land use plan? Study lang yan eh. Parang ako, mas gusto ko pa na yung you just be practical, ayusin mo na lang as they come, di ba? Kaya hindi ako believer ng land use plan. Kasi hindi naman at your ikaw ang nagde-decide kung sino mag-i-invest sa'yo. You just have to accommodate them when they come. For the sake of the place. Kasi kung hindi mo naman sila tatanggapin, walang income yung lugar. Anyway, you just submit your position paper. Okay, we call on the Philippine Ports Authority.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Yasmin De Los Santos. I'm the manager of the Port Operations and Services Department. PPA would like to thank the committee for affording us the opportunity to be present in this meeting and to submit our comments on the proposed legislative measures. It has been the policy of PPA that once port development, construction, and expansion are being conceptualized, planned, and carried out, the Port Authority, together with the awarded port contractor, take into account the development of an environmental management plan as part of an environmental impact assessment. An EMP is formulated to mitigate the adverse impacts arising out of port development program, including its effects on the coastal and marine environment. EO number 533, which was enacted on June 6, 2006, adopted ICM as a national strategy to ensure the sustainable development of the country's coastal and marine environment and resources, establishing supporting mechanism for its implementation. Since its enactment, PPA has been participating in various meetings and discussions on ICM and the NCGP and implementing environmental policies for the management of the coastal and marine environment, such as the following. One of the significant PPA policies that is aligned with the NCGP is the implementation of PPA Administrative Order number 14-2020, entitled Mandatory Tree and/or Mangrove Planting as a condition for the issuance of accreditation, certificate of registration, and appointment or award of contract or renewal thereof. PPA is currently in coordination with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources in crafting a joint memorandum circular for the effective implementation of this AO. Further, PPA is in the process of crafting its port environmental code, which shall provide the pivotal linkage between performance in terms of port activities and PPA's environmental strategies to properly manage the port's environment. It conveys PPA's belief that environmental protection and responsible port operations are interconnected, emphasizing our shared responsibility to integrate environmental goals into our daily operations, making our ports a champion of environmental stewardship. PPEC, or the Port Environmental Code, contains provisions on resource conservation measures which are crafted to promote responsible use and management of natural resources. Particularly,
Can I ask a question?
yes, ma'am.
Yung sinasabi nyo na in coordination with DNR, magtatayo kayo ng mangrove, magtatanim. Saan kayo magtatanim? Where in the port?
Yeah. Ma'am, actually, the policy has been implemented po since 2000. So, some of these mangroves are planted in coastal areas under the different port management offices, but the
So,
areas
not in the port.
not in the port, ma'am.
But that's your CSR.
Yes, ma'am.
Corporate. O ano ngayon ang gagawin nyo katulad nun? Inire-reclaim yung dadaanan ng mga vapor sa inyong port. Ano gagawin nyo doon?
Ma'am, in areas under PPA's jurisdiction,
Ba't wala kayong nagawa sa Metro Manila? 'Di ba yung port nyon, South Harbor at North Harbor, inire-reclaim, nagrereklamo yung mga vapor na wala silang dadaanan papunta sa port nyo. Ano ginawa nyo doon?
Ma'am, PPA's role kasi in the reclamation of areas outside PPA's jurisdiction is to issue certificate of no objection. So we issued the
So, anong
certificate of
ginawa niyo
objection.
To protect the port.
We provided certain post-approval conditions.
Na-issue ang
ma'am.
ECC eh.
Yes, but in so far as PPA's mandate, ma'am, we can only issue a certificate of objection with the idea
So
that
you just issue a certificate of objection?
no objection, no objection.
Did you issue certificate of no objection there?
Um,
Nagrereklamo yung mga nag-ooperate ng port na napakahirap na daw puntahan ng port kasi ire-reclaim yung paligid nila eh. O you issued a certificate of no objection?
The certificate of no objection, ma'am, is conditioned on certain requirements that should be
Mag-report kayo sa
complied.
akin. Sabihin nyo ginawa nyo doon. Ba't nyo
Yes,
pinabayaan na tambakan yung harap ng mga port? Saan dadaan ng mga vapor para pumunta sa port? Ha?
Yes, ma'am.
Hindi wala kayong ginawa doon. Hindi
we-
kayo man lang naglabi. Walang nagsalita eh.
Ma'am, there were
Ako, wala
consultations
akong pakialam
conducted.
doon. Manila yon. Pero I'm so surprised that very dependent tayo sa mga dadating na vapor na dadating na magdadala ng mga import natin at export natin. Tapos hindi kayo kumibot, tinatambakan yung port nyo. Shock na shock yung mga port operator na pinabayaan yun.
Ma'am, if I may,
Hmm.
PPA in consultation with the terminal operators and other stakeholders.
DNR
actually-
nag-issue eh.
Yes,
ng
ma'am, but,
ECC
but if PPA has to make sure that the navigational channel is open for the entry and exit of vessels. So made sure that
Ang
safe
sabi nila,
as a
mahal-mahal
passage
daw
for
na
the vessel.
binabayad nila ngayon sa pilot kasi iikot ng very complicated. Yan ang business nyo tapos hindi nyo pinoprotect yung inyong business. Mag-report nga kayo sa akin, sabihin nyo sa akin ano reason at hindi nyo pinara yun. Ako na-shock doon. I mean, I'm not the port operator. I'm just someone watching what is happening. Bakit inalaw yun? Very important sa atin yung mga vapor na yun kasi yun ang trade natin. Tapos pasasarahan nyo yung mga port nila. Pinabayaan nyo na mag-issue ng ECC doon. Yan yung coastal management. That's the real essence of coastal management. Sino? Hindi nga, yun nga. Walang permit yun. Merong parada na vapor sa aming legislated protected area. Wala namang permit sa may-ari ng lupa, PRA. Tapos walang pumapara doon. Illegal. Nandun yung vapor, sinisira yung kalye namin sa Las Piñas, Parañaque, Wetland Park. Palaging sira kalye namin kasi dala-dala niya yung malalaking vapor niya doon. Yung malalaki niyang truck na naghahakot doon. Isulat mo sa kanila. Sinulat na sa inyo. Mag-report kayo sa akin. Kasi we're talking of coastal management and then wala tayong ginagawa to protect our coast. Ako, hindi ako nag-ooperate nung doon, yung port. Pero nasishock ako doon. Naawa ako sa kanila. Kasi legislated protected area. Oh. legislated protected area. Nobody is protecting. Sumulat na daw kami sa inyo.
Not our office, though.
Yung PAMBI. Yung Protected Area Management Board.
We'll take a
But there
look.
was no action.
We'll check, ma'am, about the letter, but we will submit, we'll submit a report as to the
Kasi pag
actions taken by
pumupunta tayo
PPA.
dito, hindi lang tayo salita na binabasa natin yung stand natin. Are we really serious in implementing, 'di ba? What we're saying. Oo. Kasi kaya nga sinasabi ko dapat ilalagay mo. Palagi ko sinasabi na ilalagay mo mga tao sa gobyerno, yung mahalang mga tao para tutulungan nila yung mga tao. Kasi kayo ang in charge tapos pinababayaan nyo yung ating bansa. O, yung DA pinababayaan yung farmer, yung DNR pinapabayaan ang environment. O, hindi tayo salita ng salita dito. We should put what we're saying in our hearts and in implement natin. O, kasi ako na-shock doon na ang PPA pumayag na i-reclaim yung North Harbor and South Harbor. Malaking problema yun. Pag natuloy yun. Ako wala naman pakialam doon. Di man ako napunta sa North Harbor at South Harbor. Trabaho lang ako doon kasi tinulungan ko yung Baseco. Kasi there are 10,000 people living in Baseco. Tinuruan ko lang sila kasi naaawa ako sa kanila. Baka mangyari sa kanila yung nangyari sa summer late na pag nag-typhoon surge sa Manila Bay, lahat sila lumabas, madala ng typhoon surge sa Manila Bay. Kaya tinuruan ko sila magtanim ng mangrove doon as a protection. Nung una nga hindi mabuhay yung mangrove kasi tinatambakan ng basura. So every week sinisermonan ko sila. Pag kayo meron pumasok sa ating Yolanda, kawawa kayo. Dadalhin kayo sa sea ng typhoon surge. Kaya lang after so many weeks na linggo-linggo bine-brainwash ko tsaka lang tinigilan yung pagtapo ng basura do sa mangrove para mabuhay yung mangrove. Hindi mabuhay yung mangrove kasi tapo ng basura do. Ayun. Naawa ako doon Kasi yun yung kumanta nung kasi si Manny, my husband was born in Tondo. So yung mga bata sa Baseco ang kumanta nung jingle niya nung siya'y kumandidato. So naawa naman ako kaya when I became senator, linggo-linggo na andun ako, nagtatanim ako ng mangrove, nagtatanim ako ng tawag dito, vegetable para may vegetable sila. Si Mark pinagawa yung main road nila, ako pinagawa ko yung side road nila, binigyan ko sila ng livelihood. Tapos marami akong ginawa doon Natigil lang kami because of COVID But anyway, yun ang sinasabi ko sa inyo na you put your heart into what you're doing. Yun ang sinasabi ko sa Climate Change Commission na gumawa kayo ng program na makikita sa baba na kahit maliit lang programa just to show people that our government agency is really trying to help the people in our own small way. Diba? Parang kayo. Hindi ko maintindihan why pinabayaan nyo i-reclaim yung South Harbor at North Harbor alam nyo na yun ang business nyo, di ba? Na-shock ako doon. Pero hindi ako nakialam doon kasi I'm just commenting now because we're talking of coastal management. But ako na-shock doon kasi dapat kayo PPA ang naunang kumontra doon kasi maaapekto yung operation ng North Harbor and South Harbor which is good for our people, di ba? Anyway, tingnan mo lang, sabihin mo sa akin kung paano nyo tinry na tulungan yung nag-ooperate ng South Harbor at North Harbor tsaka yung mga ibang port operator doon against this reclamation na that will destroy our coast, di ba? Because we're talking of coastal management. Okay? You just write to me and explain to me what you're doing. And sana sagutin na yung complaint namin, yung vapor do sa aming Las Piñas, Parañaque Wetland Park. Bakit ayaw pa alisin yun doon? Kasi mahirap din mag-maintain ng road eh. Sinisira nila yung road namin. I'm turning that Las Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park into ecotourism area na pupunta doon ng mga eskwelahan, pupunta yung mga homeowner para ma-appreciate nila yung wetland park and then they be a part of the group that will take care of it in the future. Oo. Kasi I will not be here forever. So somebody has to take care of that wetland park in the future. Because that's the only one in Metro Manila and we should be very proud of it. Anyway, we'll go to the Philippine Coast Guard. Yan, kapartner namin yan sa wetland park, naglilinis.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, fellow public servant. So the Philippine Coast Guard supports the enactment of Integrated Coastal Management Act. One of the functions of the PCG is marine environmental protection. Although the PCG focuses more on issuance of regulations and conduct of enforcement for the prevention of pollution from ships, the PCG has resources such as personnel, divers, boats, aircrafts, laboratory, and our budget for this year, we have acquisition of remotely operated underwater vehicles project. I believe the PCG personnel and equipment can support various activities of and projects of ICM. Also, the PCG supports the enactment of National Coastal Greenbelt Act.
Eh, yung ano, yung merong office dun after the Cultural Center of the Philippines, Coast Guard ba yun?
Navy yun, ma'am.
Navy, hindi kayo. Nasaan ang office? Nasaan kayo?
Sa may Pier 15, ma'am, sa may likod ng Manila Hotel, yung headquarters.
Port area kayo?
Yes, ma'am.
O tinambakan din kayo?
But, I'm not sure, ma'am.
Ko,
Yes.
tinambakan din yung likod ng Manila Hotel eh. O, tinambakan din kayo. Saan kayo dadaan pag tinambakan kayo? Ng reclamation. Hindi kayo nagreklamo? O wala kayong vapor?
Meron pa, may yung docking area namin, ma'am, sa may Pier 13. Yun kasi headquarters namin is office.
Hindi nag-reclamation doon sa inyo?
May reclamation.
Hindi nila alam. Hindi kayo.
Yes, ma'am. Wala.
Hindi
kasama, ma'am, yung sa may headquarters.
Kasama sa reclamation.
Yes, ma'am.
Paano hindi makakasama? Diba, tinambakan lahat yun? Hindi pa nag-start. Hindi nila alam. Kasi yung iba hindi nag-start, pero kayo matatambakan. Hindi nyo nalaman yun. Kasi nagreklamo ang South Harbor and North Harbor. Wala ba kayo doon? Sa lugar na yon?
Sa may baka sa ibang area, ma'am. Hindi kasi kami aware dun sa...
Ano yun? South Harbor yung Manila Hotel, di ba? Tapos yung North Harbor, yung pagkalampas, yung the other end. O, saan kayo doon? Sino katabi nyo?
For info, ma'am, nag-object kasi yung US kasi nandun kasi yung National Coast Watch Center.
Ano?
Nag-object yung US.
Pero tinatambakan na yung US Embassy. Nagalit lang sila kaya ipinara. Di ba? Tabi ba kayo ng US Embassy?
Hindi, ma'am. Malayo, ma'am.
Saan kayo? Manila Hotel?
Yes, ma'am. Manila Hotel, ma'am.
O yung tatampakan ninyo? Hindi nyo alam? Kasi nagreklamo sa hearing ko Manila Hotel eh. Tatambakan din sila. Tsaka nandun ang South Harbor, di ba? Yun ang South Harbor. Yung ano yung kay yung may-ari ng school, ICTSI. O, ano yung Port Authority na yun? Ano yung ari nung may school na harbor? South Harbor, ICTSI, diba? Nagrareklamo din yun, tatambakan daw sila. O kung katabi ka noon, tatambakan ka rin. Diba? Katabi ka ba noon, South Harbor? Kasi yun lang. Pagkatapos ng Manila Hotel, South Harbor, tapos kayo na.
Doon sa area yun.
It's Asian Terminal Inc., not ICTSI. ICTSI is in the Tondo area.
Ano?
ATI po siya, ma'am. Asian Terminals Inc., not ICTSI.
ICTSI. Na,
ATI siya, ma'am. Asian Terminals Inc.
oh,
Yung
ke rason yung ICTSI. Ang ICTSI North Harbor. Yung ATI is Asian Terminal is South Harbor. Nasaan siya?
sa South Harbor.
Yes.
Nasaan
May
siya?
dumping din doon.
Tabi ba siya ng ATI o ATI siguro? Ano?
Malapit sila, ma'am, sa South Harbor.
O,
Yung
yun nga,
coastal
ATI.
Yes.
O, itatambakan kayo. Hindi nyo alam. Kaya nga pinag-uusapan natin coastal management, lahat kayo tatambakan. Wala na tayong coast. Wala na tayong coast na pinag-uusapan. Lahat tatambakan. Puti pinara because nangyari sa Bulacan, di ba? Biglang pinara. Hindi lahat nabibigyan ng notice to proceed. Anyway, so you're supportive. You take care of yourself. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Philippine National Police.
Thank you, ma'am. To the Honorable Chairperson of the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change, other distinguished attendees, a pleasant day to everyone. I'm Police Colonel Haji Balyangan, the Chief Operations and Management Division of the PNP Maritime Group. In behalf of the Philippine National Police, it is with great honor to be invited for today's meeting. The Philippine National Police Maritime Group fully supports the legislative measure to include the Philippine National Police through the Maritime Group as a member of the National Coordinating Committee. This inclusion recognizes the critical role of law enforcement in safeguarding coastal areas and addressing illegal activities that threaten marine ecosystems and coastal communities. The presence of law enforcement agencies such as the PNP Maritime Group will serve as crucial deterrent to illegal activities such as illegal fishing, poaching, and other maritime crimes. This proactive approach will not only safeguard coastal resources, but also promote compliance with the existing coastal regulations and laws, thereby ensuring the sustainable use and conservation of our coastal ecosystems. These legislative measures are essential steps towards achieving comprehensive coastal management, promoting environmental resilience, and safeguarding the well-being of coastal communities and future generations. Moreover, the PNP Maritime Group is currently undertaking the clearance in the registration of fishing vessel triggers tonnage and below. The registration requirement aims to address various coastal management concerns, such as activities of fishing vessels, habitat protections, and various coastal issues. by implementing Executive Order 305 and regulating the registration of small fishing vessels, perhaps the PNP Maritime Group is promoting sustainable fisheries management and is strengthening maritime safety in the Philippines. In addition, the integration of the PNP in the NCC will also enhance coordination among government agencies that are involved in coastal management. This will bring together various stakeholders under a unified framework, enabling the development of effective strategies and actions to address the challenges faced in the coastal environment. Rest assured of our continuous support on this matter.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
To appreciate you kasi nagkaroon kami ng 300 squatters sa amin Las Piñas, Parañaque Wetland Park. And you were called by DILG to remove them. And they were removed. So thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
The Department of National Defense. Ito, West Philippine Seas.
Madam Chair, honorable members and on this environmental committee, as well as fellow public servants, good afternoon. The Office of Civil Defense manifests its full support to the bills entitled Integrated Coastal Management and the National Coastal Greenbelt Act. These bills aim to adopt a framework for coastal and marine areas that supports to achieve sustainable development for food security, poverty alleviation, advancement of sustainable livelihood, and the reduction of vulnerability and risk to hazards. We recognize that the formulation of the same shall help strengthen the overall capacity of local coastal communities and reduce their exposure and vulnerabilities to various water-related hazards. Although we welcome the institution and development of the Integrated Coastal Management (ICM) framework and National Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan, we respectfully suggest that this framework and plans be integrated to merge together to form a single set of policy. May we also suggest that the inclusion of the Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office, PDRRMO, to the Provincial Development Council, as well as the Municipal CTDRRM Office, MCDRRMO, to the Municipal or City Development Council in coordinating the formulation and implementation of the ICM plan to ensure that the ICM framework is in line with the local disaster risk reduction and management plans of relevant LGUs or provinces. Maraming salamat po, ma'am.
So you're the one in charge of the National Disaster Risk Reduction. So
Yes, ma'am.
sorry. You want it included.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Please submit your position paper.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we go to DOST.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. So while DOST Pag-asa is still preparing to sign position paper, our principals are in agreement that we support the ongoing discussions on the proposed
Some of you
legislative
can eat
measure.
na. Don't, we're hungry na, so you can start eating. We'll just continue so we will finish on time. But you can take your lunch.
Yes, ma'am. Correct po. So we support the ongoing discussions on the proposed legislative measures under the Integrated Coastal Management Act led by the Senate Committee on Environment, Natural Resources and Climate Change. The enactment of this proposed measure is expected to be instrumental in addressing the emerging and potential problems caused by climate change and coastal hazards in the country. This legislation shall also reinforce the mandate of DOST Pag-asa on providing adequate, timely, and relevant climate and marine meteorological information necessary in the preparation of national and local action plans, particularly on climate change in the context of integrated coastal management. Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, wala ba kayong may contribute na knowledge because you're strong in technology that we can use so that we can protect our coast?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that question. So right now we are preparing the roadmap for a holistic ocean forecast system. So we are seeing that Pag-asa is going to implement this ocean forecast system in the next 5 years. So yun po yung ating roadmap. And then as we speak, we are currently operationalizing the storm surge forecast system para po sa buong bansa yun. So next year, hopefully the Hydrometeorology Division of DOST Pag-asa is going to adopt the storm surge warning system po. And we also have the Marine Meteorological Services section, which basically provides services as regard to gale warning in the country. So
Can
may
you
dalawa pa
submit
tayong
to
section.
me yung mga plan na yan?
Yes po.
Yung storm surge, forecast, and marine, so that we will have an idea. So we can read it and have an idea of what you intend to do to help us solve our problem in the coastal areas.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We will provide that in the signed position paper of DOST Pag-asa, ma'am.
Explain mo in a sana i-explain mo in a simple manner kasi hindi naman kami masyadong tech people para maintindihan namin, ha?
Noted po, yes, ma'am. And then basically, one of the goals of DOST Pag-asa, as regards to the ocean forecast system, ma'am, in the next 10 years, magkakaroon din po tayo ng ocean literacy program. So maliban po dun sa ocean forecast system, what we are targeting basically is to educate the people as regards to the ocean forecast system. That is why we are heading towards the ocean literacy program. And you also mentioned, ma'am, about the Indonesia case a while ago.
Oh.
So one of the best cases as regards to the ocean forecast system in the ASEAN region is the BMKG, which basically the National Weather Bureau of Indonesia. So they have this strong ocean forecast system, which basically they provide in all regions of Indonesia, ma'am. So we are trying to replicate that kind of ocean forecast system, at least for DOST Pag-asa, and hopefully we could be able to implement this in the country.
I went there tapos meron pang international airport there kasi I went to Jakarta and I flew to that island. Tapos lumubog yung island yun. My God. It's really frightening. So if that can happen to that island, it can happen to us, di ba? So we should be very careful. Okay, we go now to the Department of Finance. Sila magbibigay ng budget.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman. The Department of Finance recognizes the intent to ensure sustainable management of the country's coastal and marine environment and resources through the adoption of the ICM, Your Honor. As to the proposed tax exemption found in Section 30 of SB 216, Section 38 of SB 2397, and Section 35 of SB 1342, Your Honor, we interpose no objection considering that it is aligned and consistent with the tax code, Your Honor. Nevertheless, we will submit the department's official position paper once we have secured the necessary clearances from our principals, Your Honor. That would be all for DOF. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we go to the Academe, UP.
Magandang umaga po. I'm Charina Lynn Repolo, the current Deputy Director for Research and Development of the Marine Science Institute, University of the Philippines.
Where is the Marine Science Institute? In Los Baños or in
Inside
Diliman?
UP Diliman po.
Diliman.
So we are pleased to share our comments on Integrated Coastal Management Act and the National Coastal Greenbelt Act of 2022. So the Marine Science Institute advocates for a more integrated framework for coastal management, which includes the coastal Greenbelt as one of the strategic interventions. However, it is not the only intervention to be considered, given the varying environmental and socio-economic conditions across different parts of the country. When considering coastal greenbelts, it is essential to identify the most feasible strategic areas for their establishment. This determination should take into account not only the geographical characteristic, but also the time required for them to become functional for coastal protection, particularly in areas where mangrove have been significantly reduced. Additionally, there is a crucial need to find ways to harmonize greenbelt initiatives with potential compatible and sustainable economic activities. This ensures that coastal management efforts not only enhance environmental resilience, but also contribute positively to local economies. An important aspect of this approach may focus on enjoining and incentivizing local government units in strategic areas to implement integrated coastal management plans. Sustained efforts from LGUs are essential for the effective management of coastal resources and the protection of coastal environments. So the timely implementation of the Integrated Coastal Management Act is crucial for addressing and resolving the issues within the coastal environment of an archipelagic nation like ours, which boosts exceptional biodiversity and resources. While the Senate bills acknowledge the biological richness and economic significance of coastal areas, incorporating certain natural phenomena such as submarine groundwater discharge can be added for a more holistic and efficient sustainable management practices.
Ano sabi mo yan? Discharge?
Submarine groundwater discharge po.
Mga boats?
Ano po yun?
Ang ano ibig sabihin mo? Discharge ng mga boats?
No,
Water.
discharge po ng water sa ilalim ng
where?
dagat.
From where?
So it's a fluid that pass across sediments and then lumalabas po sa ilalim ng dagat
Saan
natin.
galing yun?
So galing po yan, parang river po on the terrestrial. It's like river, but it goes through the sediments papunta sa ilalim ng dagat. So may mga ongoing studies po kaming ginagawa for that. And we think that it's also a good monitoring na pwedeng gawin din to be included in the ICM. So if I may continue, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
One of the less known but equally important pathway directly linking the terrestrial to the marine environment is the submarine groundwater discharge, which is defined as any fluid that crosses the sediment-water interface in marine ecosystem. So it is whether freshwater or recirculated seawater. Unlike river, which are point sources, SGD or submarine groundwater can permeate from shoreline and seafloor even up to the depths of marine shelves. This discharge is enhanced by porous seafloor or bedrock, like sandy sediments, cavernous limestones, fractured and faulted bedrocks, which are common coastal rock type here in the country. Considering that our archipelago is traversed
Can you
by...
write about that submarine water discharge? We cannot understand it. It's too
Yes po.
technical. Can you give us a write-up of that?
Yeah, sige po. So ito na lang po, some of the possible effects of this type of submarine groundwater discharge are algal proliferation, whether harmful species or not, ocean acidification, geochemical and substrate diversity, among others. So areas in the Philippines where this has been documented are coastal areas of Bataan, Bolinao, and Mabini.
Wow.
Many other coastal areas in the Philippines bear indicators of this type of fluid but have not been yet studied.
Bakit
Such as...
doon sa lugar na yun? Why in that particular place?
Because it's very evident po na merong nakikita doon sa Mabini and also Bolinao given
And
na...
what's common among them?
So, they observe like may bumubula pong tubig under the
Bakit
water.
nga? Ano common doon sa tatlong lugar na yon na lumalabas to?
So-
Meron kayong naaaral na common sa kanila why they have this?
I think the common is that they are made of limestone, yung substrate, yung rocks, wherein they observe this type of fluid po sa ilalim ng dagat.
Disaster ba yon yung
So it can, ang possible effect niya is on the biodiversity of the water. It can also bring pollutants and organic materials in the water getting into the sea po, in the coastal areas. So ito po ang possible din na pwedeng makita itong SGD ay sa Cebu, Boracay, Palawan, Bohol, and Medina. So kung mapapansin niyo po itong mga islands na ito ay limestone, made of limestone. So common po sila sa
so
mga ganong klaseng
Cebu,
lugar.
Boracay, and
Palawan, Bohol, and Medina.
Medina?
Cebu
Wala.
po, sa Cebu po ito.
Saan yung Medina?
Cebu din po ito.
Dito pa naman maraming tourist area.
Opo. So ito po kasing SGD sa aming pagsaliksik
Dapat
ay
aralan nyo ng tourism yan. Kasi
Oo.
lahat ng binanggit niya, maraming tourist dyan.
Opo. So recognition of this phenomenon as a major driver of terrestrial to marine water transport can influence policy information and management strategy, especially in areas without large river systems and with SGD contributing significantly to the marine environment. So yun lang po from the Marine Science Institute.
So we go now to the NGOs. We'll start with the Asian Center for Biodiversity. Okay. Dr. Lim, dati siya sa DENR, di ba? Biodiversity Management Bureau. Diba?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you po.
Umalis ka yata, nainis ka eh. Nagpalit mo kami sa foreign.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair, for inviting the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity as one of the resource speakers in this public hearing. The ACB welcomes the proposed bills on integrated coastal management and national coastal green belts and supports some of the recommendations for the consolidation of these bills. As you know, the ASEAN region has 173,000 kilometers of coastline, in which 20% is found in the Philippine archipelago. In 2017, the Philippines hosted its first ever multilateral environmental convention conference, the 12th meeting of the Conference of the Parties of the Convention on Migratory Species, or the CMS COP12. As the delegates visited an important migratory bird habitat in Metro Manila, the Las Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park, a milestone resolution championed by the Philippines was adopted at the COP, a CMS Resolution 12.25, which recognized the importance of coastal ecosystems for the survival of migratory avian species as they travel long distances from the northern to the southern hemisphere, consequently benefiting communities relying on functioning intertidal habitats. For humans, according to the ASEAN Biodiversity Outlook 3, it is estimated that 500 million people will live in coastal and marine areas in the ASEAN region by 2050, all of whom will rely on the rich marine biodiversity for food, livelihood, protection from natural disasters, impacts of climate change, and a source of treatment against new and emerging diseases. For a mega biodiverse country with many islands, like the Philippines, its coastal areas comprise a diversity of ecosystems with multiple uses for a variety of sectors. While it is clear that coastal ecosystems are vital for species survival and human well-being, and that critically important wetlands must be protected at all costs, we also acknowledge that oceans and seas are key drivers of economic growth and innovation. An integrated and strategic approach, therefore, is required to ensure that no-go zones are respected and that development such as reclamation and infrastructure in and of our coastal areas, as well as industries upstream that can be a source of land-based pollution, will not adversely damage the ecosystem services and the biodiversity benefits that healthy mangroves, coral reefs, seagrass beds, and tidal flats can provide. A study commissioned by the BMB on the economics of ecosystems and biodiversity in the Manila Bay in 2014 and published in 2018 showed that the value of the development projects in the coastal areas increases tenfold if they take into account biodiversity in the area, including ecosystem restoration, than if a project does not consider biodiversity at all. And we will provide you that, and BMB will provide you that study, ma'am. The ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, an intergovernmental organization, and as the only
We want
ASEAN
that
Center,
study.
ma'am.
We want that study.
Yes, ma'am. As the only ASEAN Center hosted by the Philippines, would be happy to provide the studies and technical assistance in the process of consolidation and finalization of this proposed bill on ICM and Greenbelt for the Philippines, bringing experiences from other countries in the ASEAN region and from related global fora addressing similar concerns. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. So you give us that study. We need that. And of course, we call on Forestry Development Center. No. This one is Oceana.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to present the position of Oceana on the Integrated Coastal Management and National Coastal Greenbelt Bill. Please allow me also to share my slides to share with you some of the efforts that we've been doing in terms of ensuring the protection of our coastal and marine areas, especially the coastal greenbelts in the country. Oceana is an international non-government organization dedicated to protecting the world's oceans with a vision to restore the abundance of our fisheries and marine resources. Since 2014, we have been working closely with national and local government agencies and other stakeholders in the Philippines in a range of coastal concerns, such as strengthening the implementation of fisheries and environmental laws in Philippine waters, protection of marine habitats such as mangroves and corals, among others, to ensure the conservation and productivity of our oceans to feed our growing population for generations to come. Oceana fully supports the 19th Congress Senate Bills 113, 126, 127, 591, 1117, 1237, 1342, and 2397 on the proposed Integrated Coastal Management ICM Act, which includes the chapter on National Coastal Greenbelts. The significance of a specific legal framework for the rehabilitation and the protection of our mangroves forests must be emphasized in this bill. Mangrove forests are considered as a globally important ecosystem, especially when we talk about food security. They supply seafood at capacities large enough to feed millions of people because they support rich biodiversity and high levels of productivity. Mangroves provide home for numerous marine species, including fish, shrimps, crabs, shellfish, oysters, and snails, to octopus, sea cucumbers, sea urchins, and fish, many of which are permanent residents within the mangroves and can be directly harvested from within. A study found a direct relationship between the decline in mangrove resources and the decline in fish production, according to Dr. Primavera. So globally, Philippines ranked number 15 in terms of mangrove cover, and the area of mangrove habitat in the Philippines has been estimated at around 2,847.98 square kilometers in 2020, which represents a linear coverage of about 33% of our coastline in the Philippines. Equally important is the fact that mangroves provide extraordinary protection to disaster-prone coastlines because they are naturally designed to combat coastal erosion and prevent tidal surges from causing harm to human lives and property by the coast. They provide natural coastal defense against strong storm surges and floods. However, we have noted that in the Philippines, the extent of mangroves has decreased by about 79.34 square kilometers between 1996 and 2020. This is actually also will show you the slide about the global mangrove deforestation rate of about 20,000 hectares per year. And in Asia, Southeast Asia, deforestation is very serious concern. So we come here to show to you the importance of protecting mangroves. We note for a fact that there are multitude of challenges confronting mangroves, such as illegal conversion, land development, or illegal reclamation, pollution, deforestation, aquaculture, and climate change. So it is high time to create and implement science-based policies for
Can
the
I ask
restoration.
question? Can
Yes.
we get carbon credit for our mangrove?
Um, for now, we are still studying this, because, there are certain criteria for us to be able to get carbon
So
credit.
maybe we should study that so that we will be encouraged to plant mangrove
Yes.
because we're going to get carbon credit.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
That will also show the importance of the restoration of mangroves in the Philippines, because of we can have the benefits of getting possible carbon credits in the future. So the Philippine legal framework also lacks an overarching policy focused solely on mangrove protection as coastal greenbelts. With the Philippines ranking high on most number of people with high dependence on marine ecosystems, we need this bill because there will be a comprehensive and integrated framework for protecting and conserving not only our coastal areas but the coastal greenbelts comprising of mangroves and beach forests in our coast, while at the same time it will improve the capacities of local governments and coastal communities to manage mangrove areas and encourage ecotourism and other livelihood opportunities for the community. So the Philippines is very highly vulnerable to natural hazards, as you know, and as indicated by Dr. Lim earlier, majority of our cities are found along the coast, and Filipinos depend on natural resources for their livelihood and survival. So we are doubly susceptible to climate change impacts. That is the reason why we emphasize the need for the establishment of coastal greenbelts. This refers to at least 100-meter wide strip of natural or planted coastal vegetation extending from the seaward edge of mangroves towards land, or extending from the seaward edge of beach forests towards land in cases where mangroves are absent. Its function is actually to absorb wave energy during storms, thereby reducing wave damage, preventing coastal erosion, and protecting human lives and property. So the benefits of coastal green belts are well studied, and there is science behind why we need at least 100-meter wide coastal green belt in our coastlines. So these are examples. Also, there are examples shown about how communities have been saved, as mentioned earlier by our Madam Chair, of towns being saved by mangroves because of the coastal protection it has provided. In Oceania, we have also had an initiative whereby local government units have established already through an ordinance or executive order coastal greenbelt zones. For now, there are over 84 local government units that have local coastal greenbelt zones. And if you can see the concentration of these LGUs, of 84 local government units, this is actually in central Philippines, which is actually in the path of Typhoon Haiyan, Super Typhoon Haiyan before. So this endeavor has shown to us that local government units are very concerned and really emphasize the need for declaring a network of local coastal greenbelts in their areas through legal policy instruments. So let me now go to the specific salient provisions which we have already set out in our position paper. So we would like to emphasize the incorporation of the National Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan and the Local Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan, which requires that there be separate provisions to highlight the minimum features of the national and local action plans. This will enable us to support the local government units that have already issued the policy instruments and ensure that there can be immediately developed and implemented by the local government units with the necessary support and technical assistance coming from the national government agencies which are supervising the local governments. So ultimately, The proposed integrated coastal management national coastal greenbelt legislation highlights the importance of coastal and mangrove forests and the protection and restoration of these mangrove forests because it responds to the following. First, urgent demand for food and nutritional security, and second, addressing our extreme vulnerability to climate change impacts and disaster. The essential thrust of this bill is the conservation and protection of our coasts and mangrove ecosystems, not only for their value in fisheries production, a crucial fact for a country where many of its people depend upon fish for as sustenance and fishing as livelihood, but also for the extraordinary protection that they provide to coastal communities and the climate crisis. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I hope you will give us your report so we can read it.
We will.
Okay, we go to Partnership in Environmental Management for Seas of the East Asia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank the committee for inviting PEMC to this public hearing on the two very important legislative measures. Similar to the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, PEMC is also an intergovernmental organization working with 11 country partners in Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia. May I request the committee to show my slides, please?
Saan? Nasaan?
Let me see. Okay, so anyway, while the committee is looking for my presentation, let me just proceed. So, next slide, please. Okay, so PEMC fully support the passage of the ICM and National Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan bills. So previous speakers have already provided the imperatives of ICM and the National Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan in the Philippines. And the Philippines has one of the longest experience in coastal resource management along with its neighbors like Indonesia and Malaysia. And the ICM practices in the country have evolved over the past 4 decades, but unlike our neighbors like Indonesia, Vietnam, we have no national legislation and institutional arrangements that's specific for coastal, marine, and ocean governance. Since we have a long experience in ICM implementation, DENR and PEMC commissioned a study in 2018, third-party assessment to review and determine the effectiveness of ICM implementation covering 73 municipalities and cities across the country. And in relation to the point made by NEDA in terms of our international commitments as well as contributing to the global targets, our ICM practices in the Philippines is aligned with the regional and global sustainable development priorities and targets way back UNCED when the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development defined sustainable development, and the succeeding Rio +10, Rio +20, and the 2030 SDGs and other plans of action towards 2030, as well as our multilateral environmental agreements and commitment where the Philippines is committed from our 40 years of experiences in ICM, CRM implementation, as well as emerging developments, as well as priorities and targets that the global and our regional plans of actions have set, where the Philippines is committed to contribute. We also support the consolidation of the National Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan bills into the ICM bills. and the provisions of Senate Bills 113, 591, 117, and 1237 can be incorporated into the ICM Act, and the two Senate Bills 1342 and 2397 already incorporated the National Coastal Greenbelt Act, including the House Bill 7767, which have gone through a very long process of review and deliberation. House Bill 7767 consolidated and substituted for similar House bills, which the Senate has a copy. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide shows the evolution of ICM practice in the Philippines. So we are promoting an integrated multi-sector and ecosystem-based management, and this has already been discussed by previous resource speakers. So what we're showing here is from the practices were started way back in the 1970s, where the regulation of coastal resource management is instituted by the national government. And then there were a number of community-based coastal resource management models that were developed through implementation of localized marine protected areas. In the 1990s, when there were a number of landmark legislations that promoted the implementation of integrated management practices, which included the local government code as well as the Fisheries Code, where where provisions of these two national legislations included ICM or CRM. And then in the 1990s, there was an increased local participation in coastal management, and a number of models have been generated. And we have a number of examples in the Philippines where the local governments were able to develop, implement, and sustain their integrated coastal management programs. So recently, we are now in the process of consolidating these good practices. And so we do not need to start from a very clean slate, because we already have the necessary practices as well as access to tools and methodologies. So before the ICM bill was submitted to the lower house and at the Senate, there was an executive order where ICM was identified as the national strategy for us to achieve sustainable development of the coastal and marine areas. And as a requirement of EO 533, a national ICM program was developed, and this was implemented through the Coastal and Marine Ecosystem Management Program of DENR. And now we are into the process of mainstreaming these good practices, integrated coastal management practices, into the local development planning process. As already highlighted, the local governments are already required to develop 33 different plans. And so the ICM Act, the current version, already promotes or facilitates the integration of the ICM planning process into the local government. And in line with our commitments to contribute to implementing the UN Sustainable Development Goals, as well as the 2030 roadmap of a number of plans of actions in support of the SDGs, as well as our commitments to the multilateral environmental agreements. So we are now also mainstreaming that or incorporating that into our practices. Next slide, please. So this shows the coverage of the ICM third-party assessment that we conducted in 2018. The map on the right shows the locations of the local government units that were covered in the study. So basically, we use a code, an ICM code, which is a voluntary standard, which incorporates the requirements of ISO 9001, and quality management system, and ISO 14001 on an environmental management system. And it mirrors some of the early benchmark systems that were established from the previous projects of USAID, as well as the ICM rating tool of GIZ ACC Coast project. And in line with the CMEM, BMB's Coastal and Marine and Ecosystem Management Program, we anticipate that there will be a scaling up or replication of the good practices that were generated from this number of sites that were already that have some form of integrated coastal management programs that are in place. So the study showed, as already highlighted by BMB, there are challenges, although we have existing programs as well as support from a number of partners to capacitate local governments to implement ICM. We hope that the provisions of the ICM Act and the National Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan can address those challenges. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to show the regional significance of what we're doing in the Philippines, in the East Asian region, so we have a target of achieving 25% of the regional coastline covered by the same ICM practice. So what we are espousing is we have like a standard practice across the region when implementing integrated coastal management. So the Philippines is contributing at least 27% based on our estimate from the third-party assessment. Next slide, please. So, okay, I'll just skip this slide. It just shows that the ICM bill is included as one of the priority legislative agenda of the Philippine Development Plan. And it also shows how the 4 decades of ICM practice can help us refine our ICM practice. And at the same time, we are aligning our practices or mechanisms in line with the global and regional sustainable development goals. Next slide, please. Okay, so the two slides summarizes actually the sections, the chapters and the sections of the two bills, the Senate Bill 2397 and House Bill 7767, which consolidates the two bills into one. And so the provisions of the bill already provide the necessary details in terms of the coordination mechanism and implementing arrangements at 3 levels of governance, from regional, national, and local. It also elaborates on the roles and responsibilities and the necessity for us to pursue an interagency and multi-sectoral collaboration. It also elaborates on the supporting mechanisms, the monitoring, evaluation, and reporting, financing, capacity development, knowledge management, and more importantly, it also include provisions on how we are going to harmonize our plan and streamlining the planning processes from national to local level. Thank you, Madam Chair. That would be all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 4 remaining people to make a presentation. One is from the NGO Rare Organization and Wetlands International, and then from the UP University of the Philippines, the Forestry Development Center, and the Animal Biology Division. So 4 people, and we're ending this hearing. So we recognize now Rare Organization.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Candice Mongaya from the policy team of RARE in the Philippines. Next slide, please. So before we continue, let me introduce our organization. We're a behavior change organization that focus in conservation. And in the Philippines, we work with more than 80 coastal communities and for community-based management of marine resources. And we focus on working on behavior change. So fishers will observe sustainable fishing practices like fishing at the right places at the right time and catching the right size of fish. And at the same time, participating in management measures for their communities and ensure that our community, our coastal communities are financially resilient and they have an enabling policy environment and LGUs to be able to meaningfully participate and implement their mandates. So next slide, please. Again, this has been explained very thoroughly by our experts and resource persons from the national government agencies and the academic institutions. But again, we strongly support the ICM bill and the integration of the National Coastal Greenbelt bill. because again, the ICM bill provides holistic approach for ridge reef strategy, and it will help strengthen the blue economy. For example, like maximizing the resource reutilization, providing green and blue jobs, especially for our fishing communities. It will provide institutional budget for the ridge reef conservation. As mentioned earlier by BMB, there's an existing DBM budget circular memo on ICM. However, there's a need to really focus on its implementation and provide specific guidance for the LGUs on how to utilize that budget memo, and the ICM bill have very clear provisions on how to guide LGU on that. And also the ICM bill, which integrates the protection of our coastal green belts, aligns with our with our global commitments such as the KMGBF, the UNFCCC, and our priorities under the PDP. And more importantly, the existing provisions of the ICM bill will provide legal mandate for community-based management of marine and coastal resources. Next slide, please. So, our recommendations, based on the existing draft, is to continue the consolidation of the ICM bill and the National Coastal Greenbelt bill, and in those provisions, continue to emphasize the prioritization of preferential rights for our community in the resource use, especially for food security, strengthen the capacity building at the local level. For example, like focused guidance for the local government in the implementation of the ICM, in the convening of the ICM body and the coming up of the ICM plan, and guiding the LGUs on how to access budget for utilization in the implementation of the ICM, and provide allocation of skilled technical ground staff, which has been clearly enumerated in the draft bill. And more importantly, highlight best practices, identify venues for incentive and local champions. And I'd also like to mention that we've worked with several of our partner communities, for example, in Negros Occidental and in Zamboanga, Sibugay, and these LGUs, we can show like best practices on how having an ICM plan and enacting an ordinance on ICM has greatly benefited the coastal communities, especially the fishing communities, and the protection of the marine resources. So thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, siya yung Wetland International. Iba pa yun. Iba yung Wetland. Taga-Pilipinas. Okay. You're finished? Yeah. We recognize now the Wetland International.
Kasama po nila ang eleksyon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and colleagues and the representatives of the government agencies. Wetlands International Philippines is grateful to the committee for giving us the opportunity to share our views in these two important bills. Two important propositions of the Congress, the Integrated Coastal Management and Greenbelt Action Plan. Wetlands International is a non-governmental organization whose mandate is to support governments that are signatories to the Ramsar Convention or the Wetlands Convention. The Wetlands International mission is to safeguard wetlands for nature and for people. Wetlands are found in the watershed and the river basin. So these are rivers, lakes, swamps, mangrove forests, seagrass beds, and shallow coral reefs. Next, we support the passage of the integrated, hold on please. We support the passage of the Integrated Coastal Management and Greenbelt Action Plan. This act will provide us the enabling condition and fiscal condition for implementing our sustainable use propositions in the Philippines. We further support the prioritization of the passage of the bill to tackle urgent environmental issues, concerns in the coastal zones, and there are myriad problems already being mentioned. However, we wish humbly to express a couple of views for the consideration of the committee and the other committees in Congress. Afforestation is the planting of trees where there were no trees before. that this, we believe, should be avoided. This is not consistent with the resolution in the Ramsar Convention, where we need to conserve the coastal zones, particularly intertidal mudflats, for as habitats of birds and shellfish that are important for the livelihoods and sustenance of people. And afforestation is also another example of that can lead to, can you please go back to, afforestation can lead to bad practices, particularly planting of mangrove trees in or mangrove saplings on seagrass beds that will overtake the growth of seagrass beds. And this can lead to the loss of areas for gleaning. Can you please go back to some slides to show that? Some more, please. Yeah. So this slide shows some people living along the coast. Gleaning, this is the practice of panginhas in Cebuano. What's in Filipino? They're during low tide and the intertidal area is exposed and people can wade in, they can go and with their buckets or small picks and next slide please, and pick on fish, shrimp that are trapped in tide pools or crabs and sea urchins and many other organisms. Next slide, please. You can see that. Next slide, please. See this. This is a seagrass bed. Can you please go back? Seagrass bed where you can get a variety of species, including these very delicious clams, different species of clams. And these photos were just taken just over the weekend in Kauswagan, northern Mindanao. And this, if you travel along the coast of the Philippines, you can see this practice is happening almost everywhere. This is an important practice for coastal communities to be resilient during the face of adversity, especially during the face of disaster. We also wish to recommend strongly provision for the long-term protection of Greenbelt. Next slide, please. And I was told by some of my colleagues that it's already there in the provisions of the bills, but perhaps it needs to be more explicit that there should be this long-term protection. The reason for this is because environmental, next slide, please. It takes a long time to restore, rehabilitate fish ponds. For instance, this one in Nulat-Tula, Tacloban. We try to restore this abandoned fish pond after the Yolanda incident. In 2018, we planted some mangrove saplings. In 2020, you can see there that the trees have grown 2 to 3 meters high. In 2023, last year, it has grown to about 6 to 8 meters. So this slide show that it's possible to restore abandoned fish pond and revert it back to mangrove forest, not to its original state, but at least to its functional state that it can protect and provide this habitat for organisms and to support the coastal fisheries. This rehabilitation, though, can easily be eliminated, cleared with changes in governance or governments. So it's really necessary that we have a long-term provision in the bill or bills that will be passed. In conclusion, we wish to continue to support the committee and other committees in Congress in passing this bill and finalizing this bill. And also, we will look forward to its implementation in the future. In addition, I would like to inform the committee that one of our members, next slide please, of the Global Mangrove Alliance Philippines chapter has also submitted written example of an action plan and also the rationale for having integrated coastal management in the Philippines. That's from the Zoological Society of the Philippines. Next slide, please. This is just to show some of the members in the Global Mangrove Alliance, and some of them are present here. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much. We now recognize the Society for the Conservation of Philippine Wetlands, Inc. Okay. Mr. Ulep.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Society for the Conservation of Philippine Wetlands promotes the conservation and wise use of wetlands and their resources in the Philippines. The Ramsar Convention classifies wetlands into three. The first is coastal and marine wetlands, which include mangroves, coral reefs, and seagrass beds. Inland wetlands, which include rivers, lakes, swamps, and streams. And the third are the human-made wetlands, such as fish ponds, rice paddies, dams, and reservoirs. Wetlands provide ecosystem services that are vital to human survival. Yet they are now confronted by a variety of threats, human threats, such as unsustainable development, particularly reclamation, pollution, invasive alien species, and a natural phenomenon called climate change. When wetlands are disturbed, their ability to provide ecosystem services are compromised. In the Philippines, we have more or less about 342 wetlands, and these total to about 381,778 hectares of a conglomeration of mangroves, seagrass beds, tidal flats, coral reefs, etc. And many of these are threatened by various human pressures. If we are to expect our coastal and marine areas to continue to provide the entire scope of ecosystem services for our country, we need to determine what these marine areas, coastal and marine areas, need in order to support holistic human and ecological well-being in the country. The adoption of integrated coastal management as a national strategy for the holistic and sustainable management of coastal and related ecosystems, along with the establishment of the National Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan, is a step in the right direction towards sustainable development and the wise use of biodiversity resources. Therefore, the Society for the Conservation of Philippine Wetlands support the enactment of the Senate and House bills adopting the integrated coastal management system as a national strategy for the holistic and sustainable management of coastal and related ecosystems, and the Senate bills establishing the National Coastal Greenbelt Action Plan. These significant and highly important bills define a unified direction and transformative actions to ensure that as responsible citizens of the planet, we are upholding our obligation of protecting our coastal and marine biodiversity, which is of great importance not only to the Philippines but to the global community as well. We would like to add that as a signatory to the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands, an overarching national policy on wetlands should be enacted to augment and strengthen environmental laws and address the gaps in the wise use of and conservation of the country's wetlands. The enactment of a national wetlands policy will preclude the piecemeal proposals for singular areas of importance, since the policy will cover all of these under its umbrella provisions. These bills are currently filed at House and Senate, and we humbly request that these also be given due attention in order that a national policy on wetlands is in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now hear from the Forestry Development Center of College of Forestry and Natural Resources of the University of the Philippines.
Good afternoon. Blessed afternoon po, Madam Chair. And the Forestry Development Center of the College of Forestry and Natural Resources would like to express its support for the swift passing of the ICM and the Coastal Greenbelt bills. The University of the Philippines, Los Baños, being a national university, we support policies and programs that promote integrated, holistic, interdisciplinary, multi-stakeholder, and socially responsive, programs and policies, including those that are related to coastal management. And we would like to note that this bill ensures the science-based, evidence-based, and socially inclusive goals. And we would also like to note that through this bill, it will help us future-proof and climate-proof the restoration of our coast, knowing that if we plant today, it's totally different as we see it, 30 years from now. That's why we really need this Coastal Greenbelt bill, because by 2060, it is likely, according to science, that we will have an additional of half meter or a knee-deep sea level rise. So we have to think about that by ensuring that we have mangroves and beach forests and healthy seagrasses. Then it is likely that our coast will not that, they won't erode much because of sea level rise. Number two, this bill help us to prioritize coastal areas that are for restoration on top of many interests along the coast, you name it, development interests. But we need areas that are non-negotiable for conservation, Madam Chair. That's very important that we have this, may it be conservation for, livelihood, for ecotourism, and even for high quality blue carbon projects. So personally, I am into that kind of research direction. Your question a while ago, Madam Chair, about the blue carbon is already happening, the trading, the crediting. Colombia has started, Kenya, and in the Philippines, there are so many interests. So I think the DENR and UPLB is also assisting the DENR in coming up with the protocols and also the needed policies for all this to happen. So that is a high quality blue carbon project that we are looking. And, we can take the opportunity of establishing coastal greenbelt with this kind of, along with this kind of project. And lastly, we also hope, and we hope to see that this ICM and Coastal Greenbelt bill will be able to improve the infrastructure design, let's say seawall or coastal road, that is under the principle of green-gray approach. Mangroves, they are very resilient to typhoon. They are resilient in a way to oil spill and chemical pollution. But if you change their hydrology by putting this, just a straight line of road without proper exchanges of, water from the upstream and, water from the sea, that would surely degrade them. So we see them a lot, on the field being damaged because of wrong infrastructure design. So we hope that through this ICM, we'll be able to have good designs, proper engineering design. So yeah, UPLB gladly supports this, and we'll be happy to provide our services, may it be to local government and SUCs in making sure that these bills will be put into action on the ground. Maraming salamat po, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We now listen to the Animal Biology Division of the University of the Philippines.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, fellow public servants. Ako po si Vic Tipson ng UP Los Baños. I recall 25 years ago, I started talking ICM to a group of fishermen in Aurora, Quezon. And today I'm very, very happy that we are discussing the bill. Its passage will be the culmination of years of collaborative groundwork between the government and academe. It is undeniable that in the last 50 years, the exploitation of our coastal marine habitats continued in a business as usual scenario in majority of places in the Philippines. And the effects has been exacerbated by climate change. So recovery has been very slow. Okay, now ICRM as a strategy is a very good tool to address this problem. First, because it improves local conditions and builds resilience. And second, through ICRM, investments on active restoration can be implemented. And this is what I would like to point out, that the provisions of the bill will pave the way for the institutionalization of capacity building, strategies in which the academe, the Department of Science and Technology, and recently the National Security Council have initiated. So we have initiated capacity building for local stakeholders, particularly citizen scientists, to contribute to assessing and monitoring living systems. Living systems are very different. It should be continuously monitored. So this bill, I think, will be a very important tool for us to have a pulse on these very important living coastal ecosystems. So on behalf of my institute, the Institute of Biological Sciences and UPLB, we strongly support the passage of this bill. And like what my colleague said, UPLB will be there to assist LGUs in the implementation of the ICM bill. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank our resource persons and guests who have shared valuable information and views. We see the wisdom of passing the ICM bills, incorporating therein a national coastal greenbelt plan, as well as other viable and sustainable practices and strategies. For this purpose, we refer the bill to a technical working group led by the Office of the Chair and including DENR and other relevant stakeholders to craft the substitute bill, which will be considered by the committee to be reported out to plenary. In the meantime, we are suspending this meeting and we will go on to the working technical group. Thank you for attending. Magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat.